Tonight at 9 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on the 11 o'clock hour, BPR live from the Boston Public Library. Earlier in the week, we spoke with Bowling Alone author Robert Putnam about the importance of face-to-face interactions within our community, joining things, and the social ties that bind us together as a civil American society. Now it's your chance to weigh in. We'll open phone and text lines to talk about community building in our hybrid, polarized, and divided world, and whether you're part of that.
I'm Marjorie Egan. How much would you pay to own a painting by the great PBS host and painter Bob Ross? Well, across the country, public TV stations have had to get creative with funding after Federal Corporation for Public Broadcasting dollars dried up this month. We'll ask the Culture Show's Jared Bowen about that and other arts and culture headlines. It's all ahead, the 11 o'clock hour at BPR and GBH and NEPM, live from the Boston Public Library.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. Former FBI Director James Comey has pleaded not guilty to 2 federal counts of lying to Congress. Comey's a critic of President Trump, who has long demanded Comey's prosecution. Democrats say the Justice Department is using its power to single out and punish Trump's political enemies. Comey's trial date has been set for January 5th. This is the 8th day of the federal government shutdown. NPR's Joel Rose says the cutoff of federal funding is poised to affect rural airports.
There is a federal program that subsidizes flights to rural airports. It's called the Essential Air Service Program. The Trump administration says that program will run out of money as soon as this weekend if the shutdown continues. And that could be a big deal for the almost 170 communities around the country that are part of this program, including more than 60 in Alaska alone.
NPR's Joel Rose reporting. Meanwhile, the Trump administration's threats to conduct mass layoffs of federal workers during the shutdown has not happened yet. NPR's Stephen Fowler has more on the White House's negotiating tactics over federal workers.
More than a week into the federal government shutdown, there's no sign for now of mass layoffs promised by the Trump administration if a government funding deal is not reached. Aviva Arendine was an Office of Management and Budget deputy in the Obama and Biden administrations and says that's because the law doesn't work that way.
They can initiate shutdown-related furloughs for workers who are not funded and don't fall into various categories of accepted employment, but they can't fire people just because there's a shutdown.
The White House is also floating a draft memo that would see furloughed workers not automatically get back pay. That conflicts with a 2019 law signed then by President Trump in his first term that guarantees it. Stephen Fowler, NPR News.
High-level talks continue today in Egypt. Negotiators are looking for an agreement between Israel and Hamas to end the war in Gaza. NPR's Anas Baba reports from Gaza City. While there is hope for the negotiations, lives in Gaza have been shattered.
For many here in Gaza, time hasn't moved forward. It stands still, under the weight of rubble, famine, and the endless wait for a ceasefire. Khamis al-Hilu is among hundreds of thousands of Palestinians forcibly displaced to southern Gaza by Israel. His daughter, brother, and sister are among the more than 67,000 Palestinians that Gaza's health ministry has recorded killed by Israel in the war. Al-Hilu also lost his home. It was reduced to rubble by Israel's military in the war. He says he hopes there is a chance for permanent ceasefire under President Trump's plan, so those still alive in Gaza have a chance at life again. Anas Baba, NPR News, Gaza City.
On Wall Street, stocks are higher. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up nearly 110 points. The Nasdaq is up 150. This is NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Massachusetts House votes today to override several of the vetoes made by Governor Maura Healey to the fiscal year 26 budget when she signed it in July. It's a move that some say is a bit at odds with the warnings of the fiscal doom and gloom that some lawmakers published last week. However, the State House News Service reports that none of the vetoes, including $25 million for Math Health supplemental nursing home rates or the roughly $20 million for charter school reimbursements and the $2 million for manufacturing make up a big slice of the nearly $61 billion budget. And Jim Braude will like this. Despite the fiscal mayhem on the federal level, today's session on Beacon Hill will be only the second formal session the House has held since recessing at the end of July. Lawmakers on Beacon Hill considering a proposal to take up Narcan, the overdose reversal drug available at all MBTA stations. The Herald reports that the state senator Joan Kennedy, who's sponsoring the proposal, says the drug should be as common as fire extinguishers. A pilot program that began in the summer of 2024 saw the installation of naloxone, the generic name for Narcan, at 5 Red Line stations. In sports, the Bruins get the new season underway tonight. They are on the road in Washington, and the Celtics get their preseason games underway against the Grizzlies in Memphis this evening. Rain for most of the day, high in the 60s. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Cy Sims Foundation. Since 1985, supporting advances in science, education, and the arts towards a fairer, more just, and civil society. More information is available at cysimsfoundation.org.
Here's Jim Braude. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM. We are broadcasting, thank you, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Good morning, Jim.
It amuses me when you applaud for
I
us.
do.
I love that. And you do it very well,
I want to be
by the way.
supportive. You go vote for yourself, you support for
If
yourself.
you won't, who will, I think
Exactly.
is the theory. In any case, new reporting from the Times all but confirms what a ton of us long believed about schools like Harvard. The hardest thing to do is get in, but once you're there, not a problem. The article focuses on one troubling aspect of modern education, remote learning, and recorded lectures that allow students to skip class completely. This elimination of any opportunity for students to exchange new ideas in the supposedly safe space of a classroom, and one might argue is contributing to our inability to talk to each other from different ideological points of view. It's not just a Harvard thing, as you know. We know that our society writ large enables, encourages, and even manipulates us into isolation. Social media has us scrolling endlessly, looking at other people's lives, fomenting dissent through its algorithms designed to get an emotional rise out of us. He's been saying it for decades, but earlier this week, the celebrated scholar and author of the brilliant book, Bowling Alone on Social Isolation, Robert Putnam, joined us and told us this.
Well, we should join everything that we can that brings us face to face with other people, especially if it brings us face to face with other people who are unlike us. It doesn't mean we have to be the good government meet your enemy list. Yeah. It could be a gardening group. The reason bowling was such a good example is more, by the way, do you know more Americans bowl today than vote?
Pathetic. So the lines are open at 877-301-8970 to call or text, at least we hope. Keep your fingers crossed. How does social isolation show up in your everyday life? And what are you doing to fight the urge to escape to a screen or to your house by yourself for hours on end? Are you reaching out and joining clubs or doing other community activities or going to a neighborhood bar to watch a game to bridge the divide we're seeing absolutely everywhere? The number is 877-301-8897. You know, Putnam told us the other day that not only is social isolation worse than it was when he wrote Bowling Alone in 2000, he said with no equivocation, that is what gave us Donald Trump. It was the reaction to that, and he knows what he's talking about. 877-301-8997. What clubs do you belong to?
Well, I'm in a women's group.
Oh, you are,
yes,
actually. That's right.
I told you that. That's kind of neat. We're going to meet tomorrow night. Yeah, so that's kind of neat. We all get together once a month. But clubs, I'm not in any clubs. You want in clubs?
Many.
I think one of the big things that people talk about, and he's not the only one that talks about this, is class segregation. You know, more wealthy people live together, poor people live together. There's obviously racial segregation in all across the country. But I think that's one of the other things. You don't meet people. In Massachusetts, Wellesley kids go to school with Wellesley kids, and that's a affluent town. Brookline's a fairly affluent town.
You're trying to minimize ideological segregation because it is huge.
Well, ideological segregation is huge too, but one of the reasons we don't talk about our ideological segregation is because we live with people that are like us, and I think that makes a big difference in people's lives.
What was the thing he said the other day you were talking about the kind of social capital is it that you get from talking to people like yourselves as opposed to, was it bridging social capital where you reach out beyond your usual group to engage with people who are not like you.
And he talked about also that, all those clubs that people used to belong to, like the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, the Kiwanis Club. VFWs, I think, are still going pretty strong. Those are where if you're a veteran. I don't think you have to be a veteran to go to all of them, but you do have to be to some of them. That's a big deal. Union membership has gone way down.
It has.
PTAs have gone way down. People aren't going to church or temple or synagogue like they used to.
They're bowling alone.
Yeah, they're bowling alone. So I think that's really true. We spend a lot of time in our houses, and I think obviously the pandemic made people more comfortable with staying in their houses, and a lot of them continue to stay in their houses after the pandemic was over.
Okay, so your women's group that you do once a month, is it like-minded women?
No.
That's huge then. That's great.
It's different women. I mean, it's in my church. It's a Catholic women's group. So some of them are much more conservative.
Well, that's fabulous. That's exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah.
By the way, anonymous texter says, Marjorie, please tell Jim they're not talking about a ham and turkey club. I knew that, by the way, even though that's one of the only clubs that I belong to. 877-301-89. By the way, I'm not a good practitioner I don't practice what I preach, but I totally subscribe to Putnam's notion that one of the only hopes, we'll talk to Michael Sandel about this too, when he's with us at 12:30 about how you fix this polarized nightmare, is it, like he said, if you hang out to some degree with other people, is what Putnam told us the other day, don't go in and say, so what do you think of Donald Trump? And what do you think about the shutdown? He said, talk about the Patriots. Talk about things that aren't laden with ideological divide. And I mean, it's probably easier said than done, but it is really, really important, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a gardening group. They seem, not everybody's going to run out and join a gardening group, but I think that's true. You might have people of all different political views in a gardening group, and I think that's what, but I also think the class segregation, and it is ideological in many ways, because I think you view the world one way if you are a struggling person that struggled every week to pay the rent, then then if you're in a, and I think that's one of the things I think is maybe lucky being not only where I grew up in a poor town, Fall River, but also being a reporter, because if you're a reporter, you actually go sit in the living room and talk to people who are much different than you are, and it's been a great learning experience. I mean, I think particularly about people who are living in tough neighborhoods or people who are poor. It's taught me a lot about erase some of my misconceptions. Let's put it that way.
Before we get to the calls, great text from Roberta in Arlington. Bowling alone. On recent travels to Australia and Iceland, I was struck by what I call community architecture. In Australia, it seemed that park benches often faced one another rather than being linear, encouraging conversation and communication. In Iceland, each small village seemed to have its own small museum celebrating a unique aspect of its heritage, something of note and to celebrate that brought a community together. We could do more. That's great, actually.
And
Thanks,
you know what
Roberta.
else? A lot of people with money don't take the tea. I think that the MBTA here or the subway in New York City, that's a great melting pot of all sorts of people. Not so much the melting pot it used to be in Boston, because I don't take the tea like I used to.
So when you take the tea and someone turns in and starts talking to you, do you engage them in conversation?
Well, usually people don't.
Call the transit
usually
cops?
People don't talk to you, but you're sitting next to people. Oh, it also depends which line you're on. The blue line is different than the green line, is different than the orange line. But public transportation is more of a melting pot. I think we're really isolated by class.
Let's go to Josh in Worcester. You're first on BPR. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hey, Jim and Marjorie. Great to chat with you.
Hi.
So I'm calling up. I'm with Love Your Labels, but my other work is community development. So I really appreciate that you're bringing up the conversation around
Josh,
social
before
isolation.
you go ahead,
explain
Love Your Labels is great. Tell people what it is.
Yeah, so Love Your Labels is an organization based out of Worcester that supports LGBTQ+ youth through art, fashion, and design programs. What folks may not know about me is I also work in urban planning and community development. And so this is such an important conversation because social isolation is linked to rising, heart disease and all of these different challenges. And one of the things that I wanted to just bring up and focus on a little bit is the importance of third spaces, cafes, bars, restaurants, gathering spaces. But the challenge that we have with the economy and the affordability of these spaces and making them really work for people. We're seeing closures of these spaces, especially in communities like Worcester, Springfield, and our gateways. And so I feel like there's an important conversation we had about how do we fund and sustain these spaces that play much more of a role than just supporting a local business.
Josh, I'm really glad you called, and your work is great down there. And we discussed third spaces the other day, and that's a really important part of this conversation.
Josh,
thank you, Josh.
Well, before Josh goes, though, one of the big things we talked about when gay rights was picking up steam and gay marriage and all that was that what changed a lot is knowing someone who is gay. If somebody in your family or a close friend is in the LGBTQ community, I think normally speaking that might make you more empathetic and understanding.
Polling showed that to be true.
And one of the problems for the trans community is how few people know somebody who's in the trans community. And when you meet someone who's in the trans community, you talk to them, I think you come away with a much different perspective than you do if you're just trying to demonize people from afar.
Josh, great call. Thank you for starting things off. 877, couldn't agree with you more. 877-301-8970. Phone and text lines are working. Kate in Rhode Island, hi.
Hi, good morning. And Marjorie, that last point you made, I couldn't agree with more. We need to come together and get to know each other on a level that isn't just political. It makes us all more human and makes us all more likable towards one another. But my comments were, I had 4 teenagers during the remote learning debacle, and I've seen firsthand what remote learning has done to this generation of kids. So when those kids were in college, my older 2, I refused to pay for a remote-only class because I don't want to contribute to the notion that it's a good way to learn. I did not let my kids do that. And now my daughter just graduated, and I told her she is not getting a job that's fully remote. So my way of trying to help my kids is to not let them fall into this pit that has become the norm.
That's a great call, Kate. By the way, did you think? I suspect you thought that remote learning hurt your kids during the pandemic and after the pandemic.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, and my husband's job went fully remote for 3 years. My job, I'm in sales, so I was never remote, and I could see the difference in the people that were pulled out of the day-to-day interaction versus somebody who was continually around other people all the time. It's been catastrophic for our society.
Kate, thanks for the call. We should have brought work from home up with Putnam the other day. That's a real important issue that exacerbates, as he said, the problem that existed even in 2000.
Eric from Hopedale says he does Meetup regularly. That's that thing online, meetup.com, I think it is, where you do groups and you meet up to do different things. You want to go to an art museum or go bowling. I don't really know that much about Meetup, but I've heard of it. I think that's what it is. Excuse me.
877-301-8970 is our number. We're following up on our conversation with Robert Putnam, who joined us a couple of days ago, wrote Bowling Alone. He says, join a club, and he doesn't mean just a club. Join something. Interact with other people in your community and beyond. And we want to know if you're doing it and if it's doing anything for you. Where do you want to go next?
Let's go to Liz in Maine. Hi, Liz.
Hey, Liz.
Good morning. So this is right up my alley. I actually moved to Maine about 10 years ago. I was in my 50s. I didn't know anyone in the area, didn't have kids in the school system. And it's like, how do you meet people, at this age? So, and, the people I work with are all like in their 30s and 40s. So I'm like the work mom. I'm not going to hang out with them. I thought I was cool enough to hang out with them, but evidently I'm the work mom. So I found a woman posted on our little local page on Facebook that she was starting a hiking group so that people didn't have to walk alone. And I joined it, and it turned out this woman is like my down-the-street neighbor. Didn't even know her. Now she's like my best friend. 4 years later, I've met a ton of people, all like-minded, want to be out in the woods walking, right around my age, doing social stuff, and that was how I connected. I don't know how I would have met people otherwise up here, you know?
That's great.
You know, that's a great call, Liz. I knew a bunch of women, and I never joined it. I probably should have. They did a walking group in my neighborhood. They walked together, I forget, it was 3 times a week or something like that, and they found this really tight bond of like 5 or 6 women. So if somebody like had to get, you know, they broke their ankle, they'd have a little group that would bring over the chicken soup, or if somebody had an issue with their dog. I mean, they found, he talked about that. Bob Putnam talked about that, knowing your neighbors, it being on a first name basis.
You know your neighbors,
with your
don't
neighbors.
you?
Well, we had a block party just last
What?
Sunday. Yes, we did.
And you went to it?
I went to the block party.
What'd you
and
contribute?
It was I brought the macaroni and cheese, which you ate most of when I brought it back to the state, the leftover macaroni
Well,
and
it's
cheese.
because I didn't get to go to the community thing, so I thought I wanted to participate after
so
the fact.
it was great. I mean, I didn't know half the people, 2/3 of the people that were there, I didn't know them, so it was great. We gossiped about neighbors we didn't like, and we all shared
Nothing
cheeseburgers.
better than that.
It was a great story. And I should say something about that women's group I'm in, because they are Catholic women. I'm very pro-choice. And I was really afraid the day because we were going to have a meeting the day that the Roe decision came down. And I thought Dobbs decision
repeal,
came down, getting rid of Roe. And I thought, I can't go to this group of Catholic women and listening to them cheer, you know, because the stereotype is that all Catholic, so many Catholics are pro-life, which isn't really true. But what was interesting is there were some women in the group who would call themselves pro-life, but they were nurses or they worked at the neonatal care thing up at the Catholic Hospital, St. Elizabeth's, which got shut down. I think is it shut down? Is it still running?
Yeah,
it was
I think
a
it's
Stewart
shut down.
healthcare place.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a nuanced understanding. And I'm glad I went.
That's great, actually.
Because it was great to listen to women that were pro-life for the right way, not pro-life till birth, but pro-life all the way through life, pro-life for children, pro-life for teenagers, pro-life for life in general, and to listen to their arguments. So it was an example of my thinking that they were all going to have these terrible ideas, and I went and I was wrong.
That's actually a great story.
Well, thank you, Jim.
No, I didn't mean that sarcastically. It is a really great story. By the way, I'm not. We ordinarily don't read praise, but this relates to this, except during pledge. Listening to you from 11 to 2 makes me feel connected. You're so authentic, make me feel a part of something.
Wow.
All the inside jokes, the witty banter brings me back to a better time. Love you guys.
Well, that's very nice.
Yeah, I mean,
thank you.
By the way, that is a common kind of thing when you find a show. I mean, I used to talk about how much fun was it on Monday mornings to get to work, whatever you were doing, to talk about The Sopranos from the night before.
It was great.
When everybody was watching on Sunday
Yeah,
night.
and I think particularly for young people, not only for meeting other people, especially if you just come here out of college and you want to meet people, but for learning, mentoring, learning from people that have gone ahead of you is really hard if you're not in an office.
You know, getting back to that thing where you were hesitating to go because of the Dobbs decision, and you went against your better judgment, and it turned out not only good, but
it was fantastic.
Very positive. So did you change any subsequent behaviors because of a positive experience that you thought was going to be a horrible experience? Or is that a one?
Well, it made me much less hostile toward people who were sincerely pro-life or anti-abortion.
Yeah.
I mean, I am very much pro-choice, and I think the government has got no business being involved in this. But listening to these women, particularly women that have been so intimately involved with these issues in a neonatal nursery.
That's a great story.
It changed my mind on that.
You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM.
Rick in Worcester, thank you for calling.
Hello, Rick.
Actually, I'm not in Worcester. I'm in 413 in Worcester County.
It's close enough for us.
Yep, we're split right on the line.
Okay, good.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
All right. Okay, so what I am going to discuss is the fact that people aren't curious. My wife and I are involved with art programs throughout Massachusetts. These are free programs that are hosted at libraries, historical societies.
That's great.
And other venues. And sometimes we have a cutoff of 20 people for the workshops. And it doesn't really matter where the institution is located, because sometimes they get a big draw, and that can be out in the hill towns, and sometimes that can be nobody at all in the center of a city. So librarians and the other host venues that we've discussed really wonder why there is a problem with attraction, especially for free programs. And sometimes the audience is more balanced ethnically instead of a cross-section of the population. So, and sometimes they're completely isolated to one group. So the phenomenon really, to us, is why aren't people curious, especially for free programs?
That's great, Rick. And by the way, almost everything we talk about on this show, do you know what someone calls about? Libraries.
Libraries.
I mean, almost no matter what the topic is, that part of the fix, part of the cure are libraries. Rick, thanks for your contribution. We appreciate it.
We have some texts with ideas. Kat from Cambridge says, I love silent reading nights at Trident Booksellers. Everyone reads their own book and chats afterwards. Nice way to meet book lovers.
That is, wait. You just sit there and read from a book of your choice? I guess so. And then you discuss it with other people in the room?
Trident Booksellers is fairly famous in Cambridge. Okay, I don't know if this person is kidding or not, but Kathy from Midcoast, Maine says she's noticing there are quite a number of community ukulele groups that meet regularly with no requirements about knowing how to play the ukulele. And somebody else texted, Cape Cod Females Over 50 is a great group. And this person says there's female over 50 groups all over the place. I guess you find them on Facebook. Maybe that would be it. I don't know. Okay.
That's it?
Bike pass. My husband and I have been exploring all the new and old bike paths. We've had lots of conversation with all kinds of people. The Central Mass Trail and Bruce Freeman trails connecting many different towns with many different demographics. Joyful to see so many people on these trails. The Minuteman Path. I'd never been to the Minuteman Path. Minuteman Path, that's not what you call it. Minuteman Trail?
I think it's, I don't know what it is, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, and Somerville's got a great bike path there, too.
So listen to this. This is Zoe. There are open studios, Zoe, our colleague, all over the city for various crafters. Bring your sewing project, Marjorie, and just sew on a workshop with other people. Everyone working on different things, but just being in a space of people helps with troubleshooting issues, instilling community. That's another nice notion, is it not?
I don't know really how to sew very well, do you?
What's your craft? What is your craft?
I have no crafts.
Yeah.
I do know how to sew a button. I know how to sew a button. Yeah, I know how to sew a button on.
That's a sewing
I tell you,
kind of thing.
I learned that in school, Jim. It's one of the most helpful things I ever learned in elementary school.
Oh, you know what Jamie writes? Your craft is words.
Oh,
you can really turn a phrase.
My craft is words. Oh Jamie, I love
so
you,
nice.
Jamie.
Okay, nice.
We're talking about Bowling Alone. We're going to keep talking about it for a while longer. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM.
That is nice. Your craft
Live
is words.
from the Boston Public Library.
Marjorie's craft is words.
Your craft is words, too.
My craft is words,
in a different way than mine.
Totally different way.
Totally different way. But you're right up there, Jim. Streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We'll be right back.
There were cheers when Malaysia's soccer team won a qualifying playoff game in June. But now a cheating scandal is calling all that into question. FIFA is accusing players of using fake birth certificates to get on the team. That story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Mass Humanities, presenting Voices and Votes, Democracy in America, a Smithsonian exhibition in Douglas, now through October 25th, in collaboration with Massachusetts 250, masshumanities.org. And the DeMoore McKim School of Business at Northeastern University, where MBA and master's degree students can build vital business skills through experience. Learn more at northeastern.edu/business.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. I'm Jim Browdy, and I'm joined by Marjorie Egan, whose craft is words.
That's right.
Live from the library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH.
Well, he continued to say that I bungle a lot of words, which I do too, but that's okay.
If you're just tuning in, we're talking about social isolation on a college campus, at work, and social and wherever in your community. Bowling Alone's Bob Putnam joined us the other day. Really enjoyed time with him, telling us the cure is the same as it's always been. Just join something. come together with people in your community, your workspace, your whatever. What are you doing to stay connected, if anything? Give us a call or text. Phone lines are working. We are thrilled. 877-301-8970. Thanks to all of our colleagues who work so hard to get them fixed.
Correction.
What is it?
Apparently Trident Bookstore is not in Cambridge. It's on Newbury Street in Boston.
Oh.
The texter was wrong before.
Well, you know, the problem is if you go to Trident Bookstore in Cambridge to be with other people, it's not going to work out that terribly well.
Listen to this.
Thank you.
The
it wasn't
city
worth the
of
drum
Boston
thing.
offers block party funds of up to $750 through the Block Party Grant Fund. My
So you
friend
can
did
buy
this with her
stuff,
neighbors in Dorchester, and there were about 20 families who showed up. How about that?
I can't believe you had a block party in your neighborhood. That's amazing.
We did.
I'm really shocked.
I
And
know.
You participated in everything.
There was one family that used to do them all the time. Then they moved. Now a different family stepped in to fill the breach.
And by the way, so you don't have the wrong impression, when Marjorie said she brought macaroni and cheese, believe me, she did not make it.
I did not make
She
it.
bought it from the hot bar
I did.
at Whole Foods Market. So just people don't think, oh my God,
That
she's
is
so
correct.
resourceful.
I tried to buy the pasta salad, but I went in and they were out of pasta salad.
You know what your craft is not? Macaroni and cheese. Oh, that's a good pun, actually.
You ate
Kraft.
quite a bit of it, Jim.
Your craft. Get it? I didn't even know that.
Kraft macaroni and cheese.
I know. That was the point.
Okay.
You have to say it. It sort of loses
And
its
Mary,
import.
well, I just want to make sure.
People got it?
Yeah, people got it. Because craft is, my words are my craft, Jim.
Your word is your bond, too.
My word is my bond.
Okay, Mary. Whoops. No, Mary, we're going to
Andy
get back
in Winchester.
to you.
Hi.
Hi, Andy.
Hey, so one of the things that I started doing during the pandemic, I'm a professional opera singer, actually.
Oh.
I'm actually in the car on my way to a rehearsal right now with Saltmarsh Opera.
Wow.
One of the things that I started was an opera book club, and we do that online on Zoom. I know a lot of people, don't like connecting online, but for many of my senior citizen students, it's a great way to connect about something that is, cool and artistic, and a way to enjoy it in a format that's maybe not the easiest to dive in with everyone.
Do you get a good cross-section of people with sort of a common interest, or what's the deal?
Yeah, so it really is a variety of different kinds of people. That people who had never seen an opera before, people who are opera aficionados and drive down to the Metropolitan Opera on a monthly basis. So it's really cool to open hearts and minds to an art form that.
About to perform?
I'm working on the Pirates of Penzance.
Oh, come on, give us a taste.
A few bars.
Oh, well,
a few bars, Andy.
I am the very model of a modern Major General.
Wow.
That was pretty good. Hey, Andy, thank you for your call. That's a terrific idea, what you're doing. Thank you very much for sharing with us. 877-301-8970. Mary, I apologize for jumping you. We are back, and before we are, let me just say, you're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Welcome, Mary.
Hi, Jim and Marjorie.
Hi.
I'm so glad you mentioned the library, because that was part of my positive experience yesterday, and what I wanted to bring into this conversation, which is my husband has gotten very involved in the Luce network recently. And Luce is a group that's formed in Massachusetts that is sort of like a neighborhood watch. It's helping neighbors pay attention to what's happening in the neighborhood, to inform each other, look out for each other, and very specifically our immigrant neighbors. We live in a highly a lot of our neighbors are immigrants here in my Boston neighborhood, and they've been here 30 years, well established American citizens, but they are they are being targeted. So it's been great to walk around the neighborhood, go to businesses. My husband's been going to the public housing in our neighborhood and knocking doors. And he goes with a native Spanish speaker. And what's great about his experience is that it helps to break down these stereotypes. People are just people. And he comes back and says, everyone, was so nice and receptive. And this has happened at businesses in our neighborhood. I went to the library yesterday with a flyer about a related event. He went to the Y. Really no one has not gotten that we're trying to make connections in our community with each other. And I'll just tell a funny story. At one door, when my husband was in our low-income housing in our neighborhood, someone answered the door and someone behind them said, "Who is it?" And she yelled back, "Oh, it's this white guy who cares about immigrants." And I said to him, if nothing else comes out of this, somebody knows you care, and you don't fit the stereotype maybe of who they think cares. We have to care for each other right now. That's got to be something that comes out of this moment.
That is
Mary,
a beautiful goal. Don't
call.
go away. Did you say earlier on what your neighborhood was, and did I miss it? Where is this?
Hyde Park.
Hyde Park. Good for you and your husband. That's great. That's really great and uplifting. Mary, thanks for the call. That was really wonderful.
You have a good voice, Jim. Somebody just texted and said that they sing with a choral group. We have a doctor, a pilot, social workers, teachers, realtors, and I have no idea what any of their political alliances are. We did a thing a while ago about how good for your health it is to be in a choir group. Don't you remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
We've had many choral groups perform here. And, there are tons of them in Boston. And many of our friends, including some you might not think of, I happen to participate in those choral groups. You don't know. That's one of their great joys. I hadn't thought of that.
You're in a choral group?
No, I'm not in a choral group.
Okay.
But no, I'm not one of our friends. I am. I'm sort of one of the two of us. I was talking about our friends.
Oh, okay.
That's a wonderful idea.
Okay.
I mean, any kind of joining, obviously, is just a spectacular idea.
Caroline, we have about 20 seconds, so real quick.
Go.
So I met these three women there at the library last week. They meet every Wednesday, and they have a little knitting circle, and they invited me to join them.
That's great.
And
Caroline, we're only stopping
Why are we at the library? Why are we at the library? What are we doing?
Because my husband works there,
Great.
And I met him for lunch.
Great.
Caroline, we're out of time. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that is a great addition. Okay, coming up after this quick break, the Culture Show's Jared Bowen. We're going to talk to him about the death of Joan Kennedy, wife of the late senator, and Taylor Swift's new song all about Travis Kelce's whatever. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH and 80 p.m. live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, actor and comedian Chris Grace brings his humor to the hardest subject of all, death. In his one-man show, Sardines, he transforms personal grief into something darkly funny and very human. With brilliant timing and unflinching honesty, Grace shows how laughter can live beside loss, and how comedy can help us face what we fear most. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Andrew Gunn, Fashioning the World, a retrospective of the Singaporean fashion designer. You can learn more at pem.org. And Atlantic Design Center by Eldridge Lumber and Hardware, committed to helping you achieve your vision for a new kitchen or bathroom and guiding you from design to completion, with showrooms in York and Portland, Maine. AtlanticDesignCTR.com.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Joined now at the BPL by Jared Bowen. He is GBH News Executive Arts Editor, host of The Culture Show, airs daily here on 89.7 at 2. And for our friends in Western Massachusetts, they get their dose of Jared and Company Saturdays at 7 on 88.5 NEPM. And today's Wednesday? Yes. Yeah. Today, you are live at the library following our show. Hey, Jared.
Hey there. Great to be with you both.
What clubs do you belong to?
What clubs?
Do you belong to anything? We were talking about belonging in the spirit of bowling alone or not bowling alone after Putnam was with us the other day. Do you belong to anything?
Not really.
Okay. There you go.
Do you both?
No, you're in part of that theater, whatever that thing is.
Yeah, you're theater critics.
Oh, the Boston Theater Critics.
Yeah, that's a thing to belong
That's
to.
true. That's true. Yeah, I am part of a club. Thank
There
you
you go.
for telling me.
Everybody's part of a
limited,
club except for Jim.
No, I actually...
What's your club?
What I was saying before, I'm in this women's group.
Oh.
We meet once a month.
I play rugby with a lot of guys on the weekend. And
Yeah,
so,
do you? Yeah, I think I passed by you as you're doing that. You're part of a dining club. I know that.
I am actually part of a dining
Jim is in a men's
And the only reason I didn't bring that up
group.
is because it's a fairly like-minded group of guys who every 2 or 3 months, and it's fabulous. It's one of the most fun things I do, but it's not exactly a wildly, ideologically diverse kind of group. In any case, hello, Jared. It's nice to see you.
Okay, let's talk about Bob Ross. We got a little clip from him. This is a classic clip. He was on PBS for years, great painter, and here he is doing a little painting video.
You can always add a little blue if it gets too bright. Take a little phthalo blue and add it in there, and dull it right down. Because if you've painted with us before, we don't make mistakes. We have happy accents, because very soon you learn to work with anything that happens here. And when you get over that fear of making a mistake, then it becomes fun.
How great does that sound?
Yeah.
Like?
Great.
Oh my God.
Yeah, great. So soothing. Tell us.
So there's a great moment happening right now. He died pretty young, if you remember, at early 50s, and so there is an entity that basically manages his estate, including the tens of thousands of paintings that he created in his lifetime doing that show and before the show. And so they have now issued 30 paintings, all created on air, that will be auctioned to benefit PBS and NPR. This is a collaboration with Bonhams, the auction house. There is a Bonhams Skinner here in Boston, also in LA, London, and New York. And this is a really prudent moment to do this because something has changed for Bob Ross. I think he's gone from being this PBS personality that simply taught people how to paint to somebody who's really highly valued. His value began to surge during COVID when a lot more people gravitated to his programs once again. Of course, there's still broadcast. There's a new iteration. There's a YouTube channel. And in the most recent auctions, he's set records, including in August, where his paintings went for sometimes 6 times the value that the auction estimate was. So they're imagining that they'll get anywhere from $850,000 to $1.4 million for these paintings. And again, this goes to PBS and NPR stations. I should note they're rural stations who are really, really struggling right now. Of course, we at GBH have lost a considerable amount of funding. However, we will survive. For many stations in other parts of the country, they were most reliant on their federal funding, so this presumably will help them stay afloat and to acquire programs to put on their air.
That's spectacular. And by the way, in some parts of the country, I don't think this show continues to rerun, does it not?
Yeah, I don't know if it's on our air, but there's a YouTube channel. There was actually somebody who has stepped in and is continuing the program that he once did, and so we see I love when these cycles happen, that people turn back to the days of old, or when we see older people like Betty White who are suddenly reappreciated by a whole new generation, and they find the value in something that was so enduring again, and that's exactly what's happening now.
Pretty great.
Okay, so we talked about Taylor Swift's new album the other day. No one called.
No,
so
we had no one, and the phones were working. No one cared in our audience.
But nonetheless, we are talking about Taylor Swift again because her album is a smash success. I mean, breaking all sorts of records, even her own.
$2.7 million sales just the first day, which broke. I think the record had, or still is held by Adele for 25, or maybe that's the week-long.
That was a week Adele's record.
So she'll probably blow that out of the water. Album sales, she beat her own the vinyl record sales. So people are just still consuming everything Taylor Swift. The movie rollout that happened at AMC, $33 million in that initial release, which was kind of amount to something that would normally play out as promotional material. It was lyrics to the song. It was a video, but people want to be immersed in
Why was it a limited release
Taylor
in the movie?
Swift experience? Because she's very shrewd, and she realized that if she drove everybody there in one weekend and to capitalize on all this energy for the release, then she could maximize revenue. She's so smart in how she does all of this.
Have you talked about I've listened to the whole thing twice, and there are a couple of good songs.
You're so hip.
No, I mean, it's a big news story, too. I mean, it's not just, because I do like her. I'm not wild like some people are. It's good. I mean, what do you think?
It's okay.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised. I listened to it and was struck by how often the songs are about slights and fights and grudges. And we're talking about somebody who is in
Revenge.
her mid-30s now and still very consumed with a lot of these themes. And I have to say, just listening to it in this moment when there is so much happening in the world, maybe there are other ways that you can have your artistic lens trained, and we haven't seen that. It's so much about this, and then it's about sex.
Well, it is about sex, and we pulled the what our staff is calling the "Open My Thighs" verse of a song called "Wood," and we're going to play that song, and then I'll read you some of the lyrics and see what you think. Okay, if you didn't hear that, it was he amatized, I don't know what that means, amatized me and opened my eyes, redwood tree, it ain't hard to see, his love was the key that opened my thighs.
Okay.
This is a song about wood.
It's a song about forests in our national parks, which are closed right now, Marjorie. What else could it possibly be about?
Yeah, well, we think it's about Travis.
Yeah, well,
her husband.
I mean, it's so funny because so many people are talking. About to be, maybe. People are talking about the Easter eggs that she leaves throughout her songs, and I think this is not so much an Easter egg as just kind of trotting out what.
It's like a redwood tree instead of an Easter egg.
A redwood tree.
Point,
Well, there's been a lot of boyfriends, and this is the guy she said is the guy for her. So there you go.
Yep. Yeah.
Did you watch the interview with Jimmy Fallon the other night?
Did you?
I saw a piece of. She's really she's a great presence. I think. I mean, she's really like a solid citizen kind of thing. I really like it. Smart.
What do you mean by solid citizen?
I mean, she's got a big brain.
Oh.
She's really good. I mean, I really.
Well, I think what's occurring to me, there are a couple of ways to look at Taylor Swift right now, and one isn't necessarily that she's moving the art form forward. However, she is a huge entity in a business sense, and she knows exactly how to create in that sense. She knows exactly how to give the people what they want. As I listened to this song, I didn't hear a lot of variation from a lot of her other music. Yes, she brought on new producers, but they were producers that had worked with her in the past. When I saw that it was the life of a showgirl, I thought this was going to be more in the showgirl vernacular. So maybe like Beyonce diving into country music, this would be, I don't know, Broadway or Vegas-y or something really sensational and showgirly in that way. And it's really not that song. However, I so appreciate how she can create economies wherever she goes, how she stops a city wherever she goes, how she knows exactly how to put her work into the people, and they just lap it up.
Did you ever see her?
No.
Have you seen her, Marjorie?
No.
Why'd you make a face like that?
Because I think of her as being more of a teeny bopper kind of,
You
and their
wouldn't
mothers.
go if you could get tickets?
Well, I probably would go if I could get tickets, but
kidding me?
I'm not going to really spend $700 or something on Ticketmaster to go see a concert.
I have to say, when you can see, I mean, I went with my younger daughter to Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
And I think I was the oldest person by about 70 years, give or take. But I mean, it's like it's a moment. I mean, it's not just the.
No,
and
it
she
is.
was spectacular, by the way.
I would see Billie Eilish in a heartbeat. I haven't seen her yet.
In any case.
I did see David Byrne.
Yeah, David Byrne's like a 90, and he's brilliant from talking. You saw David Byrne this last weekend?
No, but I saw him before when he did they were all in the gray suits.
That was one of the best.
Yeah,
one of the best things I've ever seen in my life.
You saw him last weekend?
No.
Oh, okay.
I saw that American Utopia too. That was a couple of years ago.
Jim is out and about at all the concerts.
I'm not out and about. I'd like to be out and about, but
I can't wait till we go to the K-pop concert together.
That's right.
That'll be super fun.
Okay, so 300 paintings. You talk to this guy. We have a little sound. Well, should we play the sound?
Sure.
How do you pronounce Sam's last name?
Kisajukian.
Okay, he was on the Culture Show yesterday talking about the paintings he created during this manic episode that influence is too weak a word, his show. 300 paintings. Here he is.
I was really kind of transcribing my mental states on that day. And so even though a lot of the mania, it does affect your memory, I have 2 paintings a day for 6 months. And so I was able to kind of go through and almost like therapeutically see how my mind was changing and my emotional states. And then through therapy and reading, I'm able to kind of figure out more about who I was at the time and who I am now.
I love this. Fill in a few blanks.
Yeah, we have 2 must-see one-person shows right now. We'll talk about the other one. This is the first one. Both, interestingly, came out of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is where so much great theater is honed and made and released out into the world. But he was a stand-up comedian in Sydney, Australia, and got really tired of the whole, after doing this for 10 years, got tired of the whole stand-up routine, rented out a former cake factory, lived there, slept there, and found himself creating all this art over and over and over again. As he was just saying, every single day, as he jokes in the show, he worked through the Cubists and his blue period on Thursday, and then was finished with modern art by the second week, just creating. Well, what he later was told is that he has bipolar disorder, so he was having a manic episode. So when he retreated into this cake factory, he was undergoing this major exploration and excavation in his mind. And I say that because he shared yesterday that he believes that all of our visual experiences, all our life experiences are just stored within us. And then he now believes that he had this moment where they all came out. And so what he does in this show, which is really, really funny, it's mostly 80% you just find yourself laughing out loud as he's dissecting this period in his life, but he's projecting images of his paintings, he's dissecting them. Oh, by the way, most salient part, he was not an artist a visual artist anyway, prior to doing this. So he's joking about some of his early interpretations, portraits and so on. But he's recounting his life and the absurdity of some of the things that happened to him, including coming up with all these business proposals and then having continuing a relationship with people on the business end who were kind of on board with his ideas, thinking that there were strange things about the ideas, but they were on board, which was fascinating. And then the second part of the show shifts to his awakening and being diagnosed with bipolar disorder and then coming to an understanding of what this whole episode was about. And then, basically, the final act of the show is you're invited on stage to interact with a number of his paintings that were created in this time. And so you're able to immerse yourself in the world and speak with him after the show if you'd like.
Wow. Were you called up on the stage?
I did go up on the stage.
You did?
Yeah. His painting is really good. It's really entrancing. He creates wall labels. Some are really, really raw and moving. Some are really, really funny. But I definitely wanted to see the work up close, especially after having understood this story.
I'd like to retreat to a cake factory myself. Not sure it would get my creative juices. Person show is Sardines, right?
This is also...
Oh, did we say where this thing is? 300 paintings, somewhere in Cambridge till October 25th.
Yeah, so it's presented by the ART, but it's at Farkas Hall in Cambridge through October 25th. And Farkas Hall is, I believe it's on Holyoke Street. It's just another part of Harvard Square.
Okay, sorry. Sardines at the Huntington till November 16th. What is it?
Yeah, so interestingly, also a one-man show, also came out of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and this is performed by Chris Grace. You may know him from his performance as Scarlett Johansson, which he has done, or mainstream-wise TV Superstore, a show which I happen to love. It was on NBC about a bunch of people who work in a big box store. But this is a story, it's called Sardines, a comedy about death. And same thing, very serious subject matter, but he makes it so unbelievably hilarious and outrageously funny because he is somebody who experienced a tremendous amount of loss in a very compressed time. From people he loved to family members, it's shocking. But he has found that through comedy and through trying to understand life and trying to reconcile the fact that we all know how it's going to end, it being the biggest story of our lives, how do you deal with that? How do you walk around as people are dropping around you and knowing that you do have to go on and that you someday will die yourself? Again, heavy subject matter, but the way he approaches it with his perception, it all makes just wonderful sense. Some of it is outrageously inappropriate. He says there are 2 jokes in the show, which he goes on to tell that his family want taken out, but he's kept in the show.
That's terrific.
But it's very stirring and very moving. And this is the power of Grace, is that he is on stage without anything. So he conjures the image of his family together in a photograph, for instance, or he conjures a 911 call, a very grueling 911 call that he had to make. So he puts all of this theater together in our heads as the audience members so that we have to create it for ourselves. He's very, very skilled.
Great.
And there's a little bit, you can stay in your seat, you're not selected, but there's a great moment of audience participation, probably the best moment of audience participation I've ever had. I don't want to give it away because it's really beautiful.
Were you part of that too?
It's for the entire audience to participate.
By the way, for new listeners of the show, the reason we keep bringing this up is because one of a number of things that Jared and I have in common. One is not visiting his house, but one of the things we have in common is we both dread being called upon by a performer during a stage production, and occasionally it happens.
We don't have not visiting my house in common. I visit my house all the time.
Well, that's a very good point.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Point.
Give us a location, how long this is on
Yeah,
for.
so that's at the Huntington Theater, and I think this is very significant. It's in their black box theater space, so it's a very small audience. I think it's only about 140 people, and it's on through November 16th. When you were in Edinburgh, the Fringe Festival happens only about a month. This was sold out. It was one of the hardest tickets to get.
What is the Fringe Festival?
So it's a place where theater makers go to launch new work. It's, I believe, memory holds, this is where Six launched, the musical about the wives of Henry VIII.
I saw it here. Did you see it?
I love
it. was
show.
great.
So much fun.
It was great. The women were fabulous. They were fabulous.
What a way to contextualize that story. But this is where theater makers go, either to present full-fledged plays, launch new musicals, to have your own single solo show. Some things take off, some things don't.
Do
it's
we
like
have
a
that
film
here?
festival.
Do we have anything like that?
Ted Cutler had tried to get something like that off the ground a long time ago. He was a big arts philanthropist, gone now, but he had the Outside the Box Festival, and I think that's what he was thinking, but it didn't quite take off.
So, Joan Kennedy, who was married for years to the late Senator Edward M. Kennedy, has died. And I did want to mention it because as this piece about her mentions, she was one of the early people in the 1970s, prominent women, to mention her struggles with alcoholism and depression. I think that meant a lot to people.
Before you start, let me just say you're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM.
Well, I think what we're understanding too, or we've always understood because she even wrote a book about it, is the place of music in her life, especially as she struggled. From the age of 5 to 21, she took piano lessons. She loved classical music. She loved the arts. She did a lot with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. In fact, that's the last time I saw her.
She performed with them, right?
She performed there. She had done the narration for Peter and the Wolf, which she also did for PBS, actually. She would play the piano for the president, President Kennedy, trying to pull him back to be back on key. She wrote a book at one point. It was called The Joy of Classical Music, because she wanted to instill the passion she had, the understanding she had in music for families and their kids. And I was reading about this morning, I was thinking, one of the most striking things I've never heard anybody say is the best seat for a kid at an orchestra is in the balcony.
Oh, absolutely.
So they can look down and see everything that's happening. They can be mesmerized by the percussion in the back, but they can see the violins in the front, and they can take it all in at once, and how exciting to be over everybody. But this was a huge part of her life. And by the way, Jackie Kennedy edited the book that she wrote about classical music. This came out in the 1990s.
Yeah.
She lived on Marlborough Street? Because I saw her a couple times
She did live on Marlborough Street, yeah.
And she lived on Cape Cod as well.
She did, yeah. She was a lovely person. I got to talk to her a number of times at arts events because she was so passionate about the arts in this city.
I'll tell you a very quick story. When I was young, I worked at Boston Magazine, and she wrote a piece for Boston Magazine, and I used to edit a lot of the pieces. And, you know, I'm very young. This is Joan Kennedy, and I rewrote a lot of it. And she was so gracious and so lovely to me. You know, some 20-something rewriting her piece. She was a very humble, lovely person.
Were you nervous?
I was nervous.
I don't mean nervous doing it. Nervous presenting to her?
Yes,
I
yes.
would be.
Like, who the hell am I to be rewriting Joan Kennedy? But I thought I improved it, and she went right along with it, and she was just very, like I said, humble and lovely,
and unfailingly polite. I only had a few encounters with her, but I had the same exact sense. Tremendous humility and unfailingly polite, and again, just so engaged in the arts. I think that's why I had opportunity to talk to her, because she wanted to talk about what I was doing in terms of covering the arts and what didn't she know about, or what should she know about.
And very, very talented as a musician, as you say.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, enough of you.
Yeah. Do we have anything else we can squeeze in?
No, we don't.
No, we don't have anything else we can squeeze in.
We say that Jared will rejoin us later.
He will rejoin us later.
He's going to be listening to Wood a few times before he comes back, just to make sure he can memorize all the words.
Well,
Marjorie, by the way, specifically asked for sound from that particular stanza.
Well, we had a different stanza.
Dramatic.
We didn't have the nugget there that we needed.
The redwood nugget.
The redwood nugget. Correct.
Well, again, I love that you're supporting our national parks.
Anything I can do, Jared, I'm there. Okay, we've been speaking with Jared Bowen, GBH News Executive Arts Editor, host of The Culture Show, which is live on BPL today and Friday. He's going to be back later in the show. We say goodbye to the folks listening.
Wait, and they're live here at 2 o'clock.
They're live here. Oh, that's right. You guys are live here at 2 o'clock. Sorry. Okay, we say goodbye to the folks listening on NEPM. We're very grateful that they're tuning in. You can also tune in to the fabulous 413 starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Monty and Khalees. Coming up after the noon show, national security expert Juliette Kayyem is talking about how Trump is sending military troops into American cities, some say sacrificing actual crime fighting in favor of scapegoating immigrants, and also how the air traffic controllers, a lot of them are calling in sick, how they could end up once again ending the government shutdown. I'm Marjorie Egan, he's Jim Browdy. Listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
You're listening to Boston Public Radio with Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. Just ahead, more smart conversation about what's going on in our community. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds from utility bills, uncashed paychecks, savings accounts, and more. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov. Nova traces the origins of Homo sapiens in an exciting 5-part series that follows our ancestors as they go global and shape the world we know today. Human continues tonight at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on Hour 2 of BPR live from the Boston Public Library. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is standing defiant as Donald Trump orders hundreds of troops into Chicago. We'll get thoughts on the president's National Guard use with national security expert Juliette Kayyem. We'll also ask her if it's safe to fly as the shutdown continues.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then ahead of his GBH Lowell lecture tomorrow night, we'll talk with Harvard political philosopher Michael Sandel on how decades of toxic, money-minded thinking have turned our political system into a game of winners and losers. It's all highlighted in his prescient 1996 book, Democracy's Discontent. And of course, we'll talk about what he thinks we need to do to right the ship if it's not already too late. Plus, our Two More Things segment, next, BPR on 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. Former FBI Director James Comey has pleaded not guilty to criminal charges brought by federal prosecutors. The case has fueled concerns that the Justice Department is being used to go after President Trump's perceived political enemies. NPR's Ryan Lucas has more.
Comey's attorney entered the not guilty plea at his arraignment in federal court in Alexandria, Virginia. The former FBI director faces 1 false statements count and 1 count of obstruction of a congressional proceeding. The charges stem from testimony Comey gave to Congress in 2020. The Justice Department charged him just days after President Trump publicly called on Attorney General Pam Bondi to go after Comey and 2 other political foes. Trump also pushed out the top federal prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia and replaced him with a former insurance lawyer who once served as Trump's personal attorney, who days later secured the Comey indictment. That has fueled growing concerns that the Justice Department is being weaponized to target Trump's opponents. Ryan Lucas, NPR News, Washington.
We've entered the second week of the shutdown of the federal government with no end in sight. The longest was 35 days in 2019. NPR's Domenico Montanaro has more on what the path out might look like.
Already there are delays at airports around the country as air traffic controllers call out sick, and they haven't even missed a full paycheck yet. That'll happen October 28th. The White House isn't budging and is trying to blame Democrats. Democrats are holding firm on extending Affordable Care Act subsidies, which expire at the end of the year. Right now, it appears to be a game of chicken, with the way out likely going to come down to who wins the messaging battle and which side feels the most pressure. Do Democrats fold and agree to a short-term reopening? Do Republicans appear to go too far with attempted firings and cutting off funds to blue states? At this point, it's not clear who has the advantage, and this could go on a while. Domenico Montanaro, NPR News, Washington.
Forecasters think global trade will grow faster this year than they had expected. NPR's Scott Horsley has more on the latest outlook from the World Trade Organization.
The WTO expects global goods trade to grow by 2.4% this year, more than twice as fast as it had been projecting just a couple months ago. That's partly thanks to robust trade in computer chips and other products tied to artificial intelligence. Tesla is rolling out cheaper models of two of its electric vehicles. The Model Y and Model 3 will both list for under $40,000. Tesla is trying to recharge sales, which have been hurt by increased competition and political backlash to CEO Elon Musk. And gold prices continue to sparkle. After topping $4,000 an ounce this week for the first time ever, gold continues to see strong demand from anxious investors seeking a safe haven. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Wall Street's higher at last check. The Dow is up 183 points. The Nasdaq up 193. S&P 500 up 37. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu slamming protesters accused of injuring police officers in connection with last night's pro-Palestinian demonstration in downtown Boston. In a statement, Wu says, quote, "We categorically condemn those who came into our community to attack our police officers." Boston police say 4 officers were hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. 13 demonstrators were arrested. So far, 1 has been arraigned, but proceedings have been delayed due to the ongoing work stoppage by some court-appointed attorneys. In his first 9 months as President Trump's Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth has railed against what he calls woke garbage and drained department materials of any mention of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But in 2013, as a student at Harvard Kennedy School, Hegseth wrote a 47-page policy brief advocating for the creation of a public high school in Minnesota that would emphasize equity and prioritize diverse student body. The brief, obtained by the Harvard Crimson newspaper and also reported by the Globe, calls for admitting students by geographic quotas, allocating a certain number of spots to each congressional district, and taking steps to ensure that a balance of race, class, gender, and geography is maintained. But then came the flip-flop. He told Pentagon staff in February that the phrase "diversity is our strength" was, quote, "the single dumbest phrase in military history." 64 degrees in Boston right now. It's raining in Raintree. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, where drivers can compare direct rates using Progressive's rate comparison tool. Customers can see options and rates side by side. More at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE.
Houston Browdy, I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to BPR and GBH and NEPM, hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Actually, we're not on NEPM anymore. That was a mistake. Sorry, but we are live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Hello again. Jim.
You talk for about 10 more seconds. I'm sending a text.
Could
you
Jim
say
is sending
something else?
a text. Okay,
I'm done. In any case, we're joined now at the library desk by national security expert Juliette Kayyem. Juliette is the former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under President Obama, the faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, and CNN's senior national security analyst. Hi, Juliette.
Hello,
nice to see
everyone.
You.
Hi.
Hi.
Can I do a quick shout out?
Sure. No.
To the lovely Ashley, whose birthday it is today, who just introduced herself.
Happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Ashley.
Ashley remembers that I went to the Sarah Silverman concert in Providence? And you know, at concerts, they now take your phone because they don't want you recording the comedy concerts. So Ashley was my phone grabber. My phone poucher. Anyway, thank you for coming out here.
Wow.
Great. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Ashley.
You're one of the first phone grabbers we've ever had. Great
Zippers,
moment for us.
the
Thank
phone
you.
zipper people.
Happy birthday. Great to have you.
Thank
You
you.
do?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very kind.
So let's talk about troops going into federal cities. In Chicago, the governor, Pritzker, is extremely upset, says he won't back down. What are we going to see here?
It got worse overnight, or whenever Trump sends his social media posts, that he is demanding the arrest of the mayor and governor, the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois Pritzker. So he's upping it. And I know we laugh. I don't think the president is well. I think that's been clear for a while. I think it's been
somebody's saying this.
particularly clear since the Pentagon speech. This is someone who cannot, he's sort of up late at night tweeting sort of madness. I mean, absolute madness from a you are the president of the United States perspective. On the one hand, but also, are you just like a human being? Like you don't just say you're going to arrest the governor. So I do think something switched this weekend. I think we are now fully in the does this push for the militarization of our democracy and therefore towards autocracy is now in full force and quite transparent. The president is bypassing court rulings by pulling from National Guard from Texas and sending them up to Illinois. There is pushback, though, so I don't want people to think that the fact I said that means that, okay, now we're there. There is incredible pushback, not just from the courts and from judges that have been appointed by him, so presumably conservative or Republican courts. There's pushback from localities and governors. There's pushback from citizens, and I have to commend the residents of Chicago and Portland who are also laughing their way through this sort of very, very difficult time. And there's pushback by the citizens of the United States. This is all widely unpopular. Does it work? Do those pushbacks work? I don't know how this story ends. But the president and Stephen Miller are becoming more panicked in this, and that's for two reasons. I think that's for one reason. I thought the Epstein stuff was like a silly story. Like I thought that that's just something that people talk about with Trump. They are shutting down the government essentially because they do not want to work, and they don't want to work because the Democrats now have the votes to release some of the files. And that's
the theory for why Johnson is keeping
right. And Pam Bondi
away.
does not answer directly.
Yep.
A question yesterday about whether she's seen pictures of Trump with new girls. I know she didn't, but that one in particular, because that's a yes/no, right? I mean, that is like, have you seen pictures of the president with naked girls? Like, I don't know. If you were my boss, I would say no. She doesn't want to perjure herself directly.
Tom Homan kept the $50,000. That's a yes or no.
Yes, right.
By the way, we're gonna play during two more things. Adam Schiff at the end of her
he was
embarrassing testimony. Adam Schiff, one of the people Trump once indicted and convicted, listed all the questions she refused to answer, she being the Attorney General, I can't believe she is, Pam Bondi. Can I just say, for people who think this is a rhetorical thing, Johnson's keeping the House closed, a woman was elected, a Democrat from Arizona the other day.
Yeah.
He will not swear her in. And the reason he won't swear her in is because she would be the 185th vote that gets to a majority in the House, or whatever the number is, that is needed to get a majority to ensure that the FBI is forced to release the Epstein documents, and not swearing her in to prolong that as long
and the
as
shutdown,
is
which
possible.
is having ripple effects.
You know what? The other thing it's I think really important that people I like the resistance stuff you talked about is really good. You said we don't know where it ends. Well, it ends in a Supreme Court that's virtually his law firm. So let's see what they do there. But no one is talking about the fact it is hurting local economies.
Yes.
Clearly, it is hurting school kids whose parents are nervous about sending these kids to school. I read a piece last night, which I'm sure you know about how there are fewer people fighting everyday crime. That matters because he's recruiting
the big diversion. I'm calling it the big diversion. So some of the numbers that we're starting to see, I wish I had them in front of me, but they are something like 1 in every 5 FBI agents has now been what we call detailed over to immigration enforcement. It's something like half of all DEA agents. So don't quote me on these numbers, but they're high. A third of all ATF agents. So you're not only diverting towards immigration enforcement, which, like, let's just be clear here, the numbers are lower than they were under Biden. Why is that? Because this is not how you do immigration enforcement, because they're going after U.S. citizens and people who are lawfully present. And that sort of diversion or detail means that you don't have the same number of people focused on real crimes that Americans are experiencing. So they're creating a fictitious crime wave in Chicago and other cities, diverting law enforcement resources, and then arguing that these places are hell, which is, which, I mean, the other resistance is what we would call the bathroom resistance, right? No one's letting ICE agents or Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem into their facilities to use the restroom. And look, I mean, you think it's like funny, and like I'm fine with it too. I mean, this is
after that thing in Chicago. I mean, we can't. This whole black helicopter.
Oh, with her black T-shirt.
The whole thing right on that apartment building where they were dragging out women and children in the middle of the night. Some of them not even dressed, and they imagine
some of them were citizens of the United States.
Yes, imagine a black cop helicopter arriving at 1 o'clock in the morning in your neighborhood. You would be petrified. I like the fact that Governor Pritzker is saying, "Get your cell phones out, video as much as you possibly can," because this is going to wind up not well.
Well, I mean, it's not well. I mean, this is not a thriving democracy right now. This is not well. I'm not going to be Pollyannish about it.
I mean, these attacks.
Yeah, and someone's going to get hurt, but you'll see. I mean, you're starting to see. Look, this is the sort of, what do they call it? The broadcast guys, all the podcasters, the Rogan and all those guys. They're very much against this. They are on their podcast. We're not listening to them as much as others are. That they don't like this.
Rogan and Thea have switched
because on immigration. I mean, I don't know what they were expecting, but I'll take them. But the current of the Republican Party that is very fearful of government overreach does not like this, and they're sort of holding true at least to that sentiment. It's also true that the Trump administration lied. I mean, they lied about who they were going to go after, and everyone knows it.
So Marjorie often criticizes me at the end of a show saying we didn't spend, and she's right, we didn't spend enough time on examples, on stories.
Yeah.
Can we tell a story, if you didn't hear the other day, of why they need so many people? We interviewed a guy by the name of Paul Dama, whose sister owns Suya Joint in Nubian Square.
Yeah.
He came to this country from Nigeria because Boko Haram.
He was kidnapped by Boko Haram.
He was kidnapped by them and threatened with death.
And
his mother
tortured
said,
and beaten.
"Leave the country, come here." He applied for asylum on Father's Day. Was he going to church? I think he was going to church. Going to church.
Sunday.
5 vans with ICE people surround this guy. Here are all the violent crimes he committed. None. He's surrounded. He's put in a facility in Stratford, New Hampshire for, I think, since July. He got out a couple of weeks ago. His asylum thing was granted. This is a guy who was productive. He was managing one of his sister, Cecilia Lazotte's restaurants, Suya Joint here and in Providence. And they grabbed him because they have to keep their numbers up. He did nothing that fits into the category of what candidate Trump said they were going to go after.
It is not a criminal offense to come across the border illegally. It is a civil offense to come across the border illegally. So when they say that they're guilty of crimes or not, that is not a crime thing. It's a civil thing.
Yeah,
you're not supposed to do it, but it's a civil thing.
But also, I mean, look, the president is literally amassing troops outside of U.S. cities. There's a court case going on in terms of where this ends and where this begins. To be clear, a president is authorized to use the military for purposes of federal enforcement of essentially law and order. So no one's debating that, and Democrats shouldn't fall into that trap. The Constitution recognizes that. What it doesn't recognize is that there's the conditions for the use of that kind of military action are not nothing. Right? You cannot just, as the President of the United States, say, I see crime, right? We see a lot more crime in red states than we do in blue states. I see crime, and therefore I'm going to federalize the National Guard.
There's an insurrection. You forgot that.
Yeah, an insurrection. So he is going to declare an insurrection. This is heading towards the Supreme Court. There's no question about it. He has hinted he's going to do it. He's going to do it. Let's all just accept he's going to do it. The fear of it, it's all happening. The president has no game, but it's not good. I'm not pretending like it's good. It's just like eyes wide open, people. This is what he's going to do. The court may or may not slow him, but look, there's other ways to show a kind of resistance and make it difficult. I am now of the school that every Democratic governor should get out of the National Governors Association. The most benign organization you could ever. They absolutely should.
Unless there's a statement put out, they said, condemning this
what
behavior.
Texas did.
It's
important. It's important.
The
to
hilarious thing is, the only place where the place where the biggest crime against ICE officials happened, the biggest attack against ICE officials, was in Texas, and Governor Abbott has the nerve to talk about protecting ICE agents and sending them to Illinois when it was the ICE agents who were attacked in Texas.
The thing is, when they defend the mask thing, they say, we have to protect their identities and all that because they're going to be picked on. I mean, do the judges go into court with masks on so they can't be gone after online? Do police officers running around with masks on? I mean, why are they unique? I think that's a big thing of baloney. But, just like...
Well, that law in California that was signed by Newsom, which said law enforcement people can't wear masks, is also probably going to end up in the Supreme Court as to whether or not they have that power.
But I just want to point out, because we always get texts about this, that there's crime problem, they're going to solve a crime problem. I think it is a mistake, with all due respect, to fall for that line, just like it was a mistake to fall for the anti-Semitism line about going after all these colleges. This is not about fighting crime. This is about, and I think more and more people are saying this, a show of force in the cities, normalizing a show of force in the cities, and people, including Governor Pritzker, think this is about having a military force in the city for the 2026 election. That's what this is about. Because if they wanted to fight crime, they would give back the money. What did he take away? $800 million in crime-fighting forces, so you could hire more police officers who are equipped to fight crime in cities.
I mean, look at the language that they're using: war and insurrection and whatever, all the chaos. And I mean, it's a vision of the world that they're creating that doesn't actually exist for justifying.
Well, you saw the scenes
from
Portland.
I know with all them with the donuts and the people in the big plastic dinosaur heads and stuff. I mean,
nighttime it got a little bit more rowdy, but it was one block. One block of Portland. It wasn't the city burning down.
Because I have personal concerns. You're security mom. Everybody who I've heard on CNN the last couple of days, not you, talking about how, don't worry, the fact that the TSA agents are calling in sick, the fact that it shut down this airport, the fact that airport has fewer controllers, etc., everything is safe. Is it safe to fly?
It's safe to fly.
It is?
I think, here's how I put it.
They were overworked before. Now some of them aren't showing up for work.
No, so you give yourself more time, and the chances that the airport that you're going to might be closed or delayed are going to be higher now. There's no evidence yet that the rules that exist that manage flights vis-a-vis air traffic controllers are being changed. They're closing down the airports when they don't have enough air traffic controllers, but it's going to be more of a nuisance. It's going to be more annoying. But I have seen nothing yet that suggests the FAA is bypassing
wait a second. Wasn't there?
rules.
Was it Burbank? Somewhere
Burbank
yesterday.
closed. But let me tell you.
Wait. When they called air traffic control, the response was to call an 800 number to find out about what
because it was closed.
That's not an extraordinary.
But the pilots already know that it's closed. Like because you can't get your flight pattern. It's not great. But let me just let me just be clear here. This is a sort of side swipe that I'm loving, right? Like, who's going to make our life absolutely miserable and make it clear to Republicans that not only are they losing the American public on health care, but they're going to lose the American public. The air traffic controllers are not sick. They're calling in sick, but they are being asked to work without pay. And for whatever reason, they're a very strong union, whatever. This is a group of federal workers that has decided that they are going to push back, and God love them.
Aren't they the ones? They're the ones that ended the shutdown in 20 whatever year it was.
That's right.
35-day shutdown.
But the Democrats won't blink. The Republican.
Well, hold on.
Republicans
hold
in
on.
disarray.
You think so?
No
We're reading
way.
this morning with Jean Shaheen, who isn't even running for election up in New Hampshire again. Maybe one of the Democrats that will say, "Let's end the shutdown."
Yeah. Okay.
And she's going to Angus King.
But she's for holding out at the same breath for the Obamacare premiums to be extended.
End it when the Republicans fold, and if they don't end it this month, then November 1st, the time runs out, and the Republicans are going to be holding two things. They're going to be holding a bad law in terms of the health care, and they're going to be holding a month of this shutdown. So let's just don't blink. Like, right? I mean, and this is just the way it is now. And you got to be, if you are nervous about where this country is going, which you should be, given the forces that have been unleashed by Trump. It's too nice to talk about Stephen Miller. This is all coming from Trump.
Marjorie's position is there is never a good time not to talk about Stephen Miller as far as she's concerned.
Well,
never.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sort of ridiculed
She's got it,
to a great degree yesterday, and he seemed to fall for it.
Right.
He had to watch her little speech get replayed
which was hilarious.
on Fox News.
Yeah. Fox has been interesting on this.
How so?
It's been having lots of Democrats on, or at least it's not liking this shutdown as much as you would think. It's had a lot of people on who are explaining what the fight is about and how much it would cost people. You had who's the senator from Arizona married to the former astronaut? Kelly. They had Kelly on for like 8 minutes, and he was just basically given the microphone to talk about what the Republicans are doing to the economy. So, look, businesses don't like this. People who like a sense of order don't like this, and you just keep pushing.
We weren't going to talk about this with you, but because you put it in my head, I don't know if you brought it up or I brought it up in passing. Can we just spend a minute on what I consider to be one of the most disgraceful performances by a public official in front of the Senate yesterday? The Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, as I said, we're going to play a little bit later Adam Schiff's summary of every single question. This puerile, uninformed behavior, if people didn't see this yesterday, what her tactic was, which she had memorized, at least I didn't see the whole hearing, I only saw excerpts, is when she was asked a tough question by a senator, she had notes saying one thing they had done that wasn't perfect, and she said things like, if you cared as much about your citizens as you care about hating Donald Trump,
it was like
it's like a 4-year-old
It was
does
like
this
AG
kind of
Karen.
thing.
It was like sorry, but I like Karens. But it was.
Kristi Noem doesn't know what habeas corpus is. This woman couldn't answer. And by the way, it wasn't just because Donald Trump said to her, be belligerent and yell back. She has no idea what she's doing.
That's true. That's true. But the other thing is, what was interesting is she would not answer questions that would require her to perjure herself to move forward. In other words, so the question she doesn't answer on Homan, she knows the answer. Homan kept the 50,000, so she doesn't answer.
This is when he took it from FBI agents last year.
Perjury.
That was not charged.
Thank you. Yes. The second is, are there pictures of Donald Trump? These girls keep getting younger in my mind. I'm like with naked 2-year-olds, with naked girls. With naked girls. She did not deny that, and part of that I think is they'll do anything for Trump, but they, that she would not. For whatever reason, she would rather go on offense. The strategy worked for her boss. The strategy would work for her base. She just launched 1 million stories about whether Homan kept the 50,000 that he's accused of milking during the campaign and basically accepting a bribe. And she's just launched people like me who I always have had the Epstein story sort of like, oh yeah, like whatever, like it can't be that bad. Now all of a sudden I'm like, get the votes, release this stuff. I'm like, I saw her say that and I was like, okay, I was ignoring everyone thinking this was all about Epstein, but now all of a sudden, I wonder if it's about Epstein.
Well, can we be as disorganized as we've been the last few minutes since we both mentioned a few minutes ago?
Yeah.
As much as Johnson, the Speaker of the House, is stalling so that the House doesn't go back into session for a variety of reasons, including that deciding vote from Arizona, the new congressperson, at some point he does have to reconvene. So I assume the thinking must be, well, she would be the deciding vote. That gives him more time to convince Republicans who want the release not to vote for the release to flip.
Yeah, he's stuck.
Okay.
And and he clearly doesn't have the vote because he's not bringing her back. And he's not opening up the government. And in the meanwhile, they're looking at the polling and seeing that most Americans, vast majority of Americans, are blaming this shutdown for them. And that's why, look, the ratchet up is a response to how bad it is for them. I know it's hard to see because he just seems he's just untethered from law and from our democratic norms. But then to say against federal law that these workers will not get back pay.
We didn't say that definitively. He wouldn't commit that all of them would.
But let's just say OMB took it off the website. They took the law off the website. So we've seen the story before.
The law that guarantees
and
repayment.
also, why would we give Trump the benefit of the doubt on whether he's going to do something he promises? He's going to do the Insurrection Act. He's going to at least claim that he has authority not to back pay. That's why you're seeing the air traffic controllers not show up to work. You tell them to show up to work and they're not going to get back pay. I'm with them 100%. I will drive anywhere at this stage, right? You cannot do that.
Well, the only thing we don't have time to talk about with you, though, is the whole issue of whether or not the Democrats, while they are staying together as of the time being, whether as Margie would say regularly, whether the face of the Democratic Party, such as it is the right face to convince the American people not just that Trump is bad for them, but that they are the better alternative.
No, as I say, you cannot fight somebody with nobody, and we have nobodies.
I like that. See ya.
We've been speaking
Bye.
with Juliette Kayyem, former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under President Barack Obama, Faculty Chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, and a CNN Senior National Security Analyst. Coming up after this quick break, Harvard political philosopher Michael Sandel joins us at the Boston Public Library ahead of his GBH Lowell lecture tomorrow night. We're going to talk about the Trump takeover of America. Why it happened? Will it last? I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
In Italy, a supervolcano outside of Naples is stirring in a way it hasn't for centuries. Hundreds of thousands of people live in the crater left by its past eruptions.
One thing that you learn very soon is that we do not have the control. Nature has the control.
I'm Mary Louise Kelly. We hear from the scientists studying the volcano at its crater on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Minute Women Home Care, providing senior home care services to families in the Metro West Boston area for over 55 years. Services include dementia care, fall prevention, live-in, and 24-hour care. MWHomecare.com. And Moderna. mNEXSpike, COVID-19 vaccine mRNA by Moderna, is available. Pharmacists can help with any questions about mNEXSpike.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browder live from the BPL and stream at youtube.com/GBH News. Joined out at the library desk by Michael Sandel, author of Democracy's Discontent. Most notably, it turns out, we just found out, he gave Juliette Kayyem a B in his class, which is a mark that will stay with him for a long time. Here's just a few of his accolades, Marjorie. A rock star moralist, the world's most influential living philosopher. His legendary Harvard course, Justice, is freely available online and has been viewed by tens of millions of people.
This time you're a transplant surgeon, and you have 5 patients, each in desperate need of an organ transplant in order to survive. And you have no organ donors. And then it occurs to you that in the next room, there's a healthy guy who came in for a checkup. He's taking a nap. You could go in very quietly, yank out the 5 organs, that person would die, but you could save the 5. How many would do it?
His most recent book is The Tyranny of Merit, Can We Find the Common Good? And tomorrow night at GBH in Brighton, he'll deliver the inaugural Ralph Lowell Lecture in partnership with the John F. Kennedy Library and GBH's Forum Network for free tickets, and you really, really want to be there. Free tickets to attend the events or to watch online, you go to gbh.org/events. Michael Sandel, it's great to see you again. Thanks so much for being here.
Good to be with you, Jim.
Okay.
Marjorie.
Oh, well, it's good to be with you, too. I'm a little intimidated here, but I've been reading a lot of your work over the last few days, and correct me if I'm wrong, we were just talking about Trump with your former student, Juliette Kayyem, but it seems your view at this moment is that the president is flooding the zone with all these controversies and atrocities and kind of winning while the Democrats are depending on the courts and the rule of law to rescue us and kind of losing.
Yes.
Is that where we are?
Yes.
Well,
and the Democrats have made a mistake going back to the first term in thinking that law can rescue the republic, and in fact, only politics can address the challenge, the threat that Donald Trump poses, which means that the Democratic Party, progressives generally, have to reimagine their mission and purpose in a way that reconnects, especially with working people without college degrees, who once constituted the base of the Democratic Party, but whom they've alienated in recent decades. They need a new political project.
You know, when people like you, Michael Sandel, say things like that, I think the average person, including me, says, oh, what he's saying is they have to really focus on the Carville, it's the economy, stupid. But you don't think the economy's enough?
No. I think partly it's the economy, and especially the widening inequalities of income and wealth of recent decades, which came about under both Democratic and Republican presidents who embraced a version of market-driven globalization that delivered great rewards to those at the top, especially the top 20%, but almost no improvement for the bottom half, who had stagnant wages for 5 decades, the median worker in real terms, jobs outsourced, but they added insult to injury. This is why it's more than the economy, Jim. It's not just economic inequality. It's inequality of social recognition and esteem, dignity, respect. One of the most potent sources of Trump's appeal is the sense of grievance among working people without college degrees who feel looked down upon by elites, who feel that their work isn't valued, that their voice doesn't matter. And Democrats and progressives have to figure out how to speak not only to the economic inequality, but also to the inequality of dignity, respect, honor, and esteem.
Who in the Democratic Party gets that message and acts upon it in a way that you would embrace?
Well, it remains to be seen. There have been strands, gestures in this direction. Remember Sherrod Brown from Ohio?
Yes.
Who's running again, even though he lost last time, is he not?
I
think he's planning on running for the Senate again, yeah.
Now, he emphasized the dignity of work. And I think any reimagined political project for progressives has to put the dignity of work at the center, to ask how to make life better for everyone who contributes to the economy and the common good, whether or not they have a college degree. So he would be one. Bernie Sanders on the economic issues, issues of fairness, he addressed many of the grievances that Trump appealed to, and there was a surprising overlap in support, polls showed, between those who favored Bernie and those who voted for Trump. There was some overlap where I think Bernie's agenda needs to be supplemented with goes beyond the economy and fairness to questions of community, belonging, membership, a politics of the common good. Fairness matters. Economic inequality has to be addressed, but we also have to address, people are hungry for a politics that addresses what it is we share and owe one another as fellow citizens, which is the move from economic policies to a broader moral and civic project.
We're talking to Michael Sandel, who will be delivering a lecture tomorrow night in partnership with JFK Library and GBH's Forum Network. To get tickets or watch online, gbh.org/events.
Well, you talked, Michael Sandel, about how wokeism can seem arrogant to people. What did you mean by that?
Well, I didn't describe it as wokeism, though I can see how you would assimilate it and could assimilate it to it. But there is, I think, many working people feel when they feel looked down upon, it's because so much emphasis has been placed, such valorization of getting a degree. Because during the period of this growing economic inequality, the mainstream politicians who presided over this, Democrats and Republicans, did not address the inequality head-on by saying, what did we do wrong by outsourcing jobs to low-wage countries and so on, and deregulating the financial industry, and doing the Wall Street bailout.
Well, Clinton and Obama.
They were part of this, as was George W. Bush. They said, if you want to compete and win in the global economy, go to college. What you earn will depend on what you learn. You can make it if you try. Now, it's a good thing to encourage people to get a college education, to go as far as they can with their studies, developing their talents. Was the insult implicit in it. Because if you're the insult was this: if you're struggling in the new economy and you didn't go to college, your failure must be your fault. You didn't do what we told you to do to improve yourself. So it's on you, not on us. And this, I think, is understandably galling to people who are contributing but who don't have degrees.
Do you go home at night some nights and say, I can't believe I have to tell Democrats that this is how you connect with real people? I'm not in any way belittling your brilliant research and work. It is so obvious what you're saying that it's pathetic. I mean, it's pathetic that they don't just do it, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting, Jim. It may seem obvious as we sit here discussing it and reflecting on what's gone wrong, but this has happened not only to the Democratic Party, which has alienated working people. At the same time, it became the party of the professional classes, the well-educated classes, who now vote Democratic, and those without degrees tend to vote Republican. It's happened in democracies around the world. It happened to Britain's Labour Party. The Brexit vote, the same year Donald Trump was elected, 2016, the first time. The vote for Brexit, those without degrees voted to leave. Those with degrees and advanced degrees voted to remain. And then that pattern was replicated in our election. It's happened to the German Social Democrats, to the Social Democrats in France. So it is, though it may seem obvious, all of the center-left parties have become parties of the professional, credentialed classes, and this has opened the way for right-wing populist parties to capture working people without degrees.
Well, you know what the other thing is, too? After the murder on the street by George Floyd, I think a lot of people were trying to compensate for the racism in America and how could somebody, a white cop, kill a black guy like this in the street and all that. And we talked a lot constantly about white privilege. We saw a film, it was on Frontline last night, about poverty in America, 2 white families and 1 black family, but you don't have to be, a Harvard philosopher to know that if you are a poor white family hearing about white privilege, you can get pretty ticked off by that.
Yes, and understandably so, because people who are struggling don't like to be called privileged, and they feel it as a kind of finger wagging. Those of us who spend our days, Marjorie, in the company of the credentialed, can easily forget a simple fact. Most of our fellow citizens don't have a 4-year college degree. More than 60% do not. So it's folly to create an economy that sets as a necessary condition on dignified work and a decent life a 4-year degree that most people don't have.
So, Michael Sandel, let me quote you to you, or at least paraphrase you to you a little bit more. Don't cede patriotism to the right. And you're nodding. I nodded when I've heard you say it or read it. What does that mean, though? How does one reclaim patriotism?
It's interesting that Democrats and progressives now are wary, suspicious of patriotism, even allergic to it because, understandably, they say, well, that's what right-wingers talk about. That's xenophobia. That's hostility to immigrants. And so they shrink, progressives do, from offering their own account of patriotism. It wasn't always this way. If we look back at center-left political parties in the Democrats in the United States, going back to FDR and the New Deal, the social democratic parties of Europe, they always emphasized solidarity, what it is to be a member of a political community with mutual obligations. This is the moral underpinning of the welfare state, of public provision of essential goods, health, education, transportation, security, retirement. But somewhere along the way, liberalism lost its connection with strong notions of national belonging, membership, allegiance, pride. And so this, I think, can be the beginning of a new progressive politics that doesn't only speak the language of individual rights, but also of the mutual obligations we have as fellow citizens, as participants in history and traditions which are contested, but then let's contest them, to prevent patriotism from becoming the monopoly of right-wing populist autocrats. That's dangerous. It's too potent a political sentiment and aspiration to cede to the authoritarian populist right.
Oh, it's so true. When you see a pickup truck go down the highway with a big American flag on it, you immediately assume it's a Trump. It's a Trump person. Yeah. But how do you do that, though? I mean, how do you get that communitarian kind of feel and the belonging kind of feel? How do you do that?
Well, here's one very concrete way we could begin, Marjorie. One of the most corrosive effects of the economic inequalities of recent decades has been to separate us in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
Well, those who are affluent and those of modest means increasingly live separate lives. We live and work and shop and play in separate places. We send our kids to different schools. This isn't good for democracy, and it's not good for a healthy sense of community. So one thing we need to do, and this is beyond national level politics, it's within civil society and state and local civil society and government. We need to rebuild class-mixing institutions, public places and common spaces that bring people together from different walks of life in the ordinary course of their lives.
Like a library, for example.
Well, public libraries at the top of the list, along with public schools, but also seemingly more mundane places like public parks and recreation centers, municipal swimming pools, public transportation, sports stadia that gather people together across different classes and ethnic backgrounds. This is how, by bumping up against one another in the course of our everyday lives, this is how we learn to negotiate our differences, and this is how we come to care for the common good. So that would be a small-scale, local way within civil society of beginning to re-knit the moral and social fabric of a shared democratic life. And then beyond that, we need to speak about the economy from the standpoint not only of each individual's access to consumer goods, but also from the standpoint of building an economy hospitable to community, a sense of mutual obligations, and hospitable to self-government.
What do you think about the argument people like Ezra Klein made it? I think the book was called Abundance, that one of the problems for Democrats in democratic cities around the country is that we've made it really hard. We promise a lot. We promise daycare, we promise, pay, time off from work, parental leave, and all this kind of stuff, but we never seem to too hard to build housing with we have to have 17,000, permits and all this kind of stuff. And that's one of the frustrations. We talk and we don't produce.
I think that we need to produce concrete results on the ground. And there may be problems with too much red tape and too much bureaucracy and home construction, that kind of thing. And these are useful public policy prescriptions. But I don't think they add up to a new public philosophy for progressives. And that's what we have to keep our focus on. I think Democrats tend to be looking always for policy fixes, and there are plenty of ways in which we need policy fixes. But they also need something bigger, a reimagined moral and civic project that addresses the sense of disempowerment, the sense that people's voices don't matter, and the sense that community, the moral fabric of community has eroded.
You know, it's hard to disagree with anything you're saying here, but for those who find that work too difficult or too complex, what so many people say is, well, we just have to make it through 3.5 more years, and that assumes the democracy will make it through 3.5 more years. I was at an event at Babson. Larry Ty, formerly of the Globe, does these beautiful health for health journalists a couple of weeks ago, and Nicole Hannah-Jones was speaking, and from the 1619 Project, obviously, and she was asked the question about in what does she have hope? And her response was, she paused and she said, nothing. She said, what Donald Trump has done in 8 months, he has undone, and I forget the percentage, it was like 60% or something like that, of the 3 major civil rights laws that took decades and decades to build. And she said, I am of the belief that it will take us 60 to 70 years to recover from this Trump presidency. Are you part of the Hannah-Jones school of thinking, or are you a little bit more hopeful?
I think there is a basis for hope. I admire Nicole Hannah-Jones, and she was a guest speaker in my course a few years ago.
She's amazing. I'd never heard her speak before. It's amazing, yeah.
She's terrific. But I think she should not rule out hope so quickly.
Where do you find it?
Not by trying to figure out how Democrats can parry Donald Trump's latest outrage. I think that's the focus and the distraction. He's a master of distraction. And I think that the Democrats fall for that distraction too much and don't step back and ask, why is it that the public, if he's as dangerous as we think he is, why is it that the public went for him instead of what we have to offer? That's a hard question, and maybe an embarrassing question. I think the Democrats have to begin with a certain self-critical stance. We were implicated in those hyperglobalization policies that created the divide between winners and losers. And we were implicated in becoming the party more oriented to the values and the interests and the outlook of the well-educated professional classes alienating working people. And here's where I would find hope. That wherever I go, it begins with students, young people, the ones I teach in my classroom, but also the ones I'm able to engage with when I travel around the world and have interactive lectures where I invite the students to offer their views on the big questions of the day. There is I find a great hunger among especially young people for a better kind of public discourse. We hear a lot about how students are intimidated to express their views. I don't see that. Given the opportunity, given a platform of reasoned public debate, students are hungry for engaging in public debate and argument with mutual respect on big questions, including questions of values, fraught questions, questions of justice. What should we do about inequality? What should be the role of money in markets in a good society? What do we owe one another as fellow citizens? They're hungry for this debate, which suggests that we have something to build on and tap into if we can find a way to connect with that energy and provide platforms for public discourse on big questions of a kind that we don't find on most media today, traditional media. It's certainly not on social media.
Are we part of the problem, the media here?
Yes. I mean, not this program.
Well,
but yes.
some days it is, frankly.
Yeah, that's right. It's Jim's fault.
No, I'm serious.
Yes, in general, the media, now talking before we get to social media, but the traditional media has failed to provide platforms for morally robust, engaged public discourse on big questions that matter. We don't do that. Instead, we see shouting matches and ideological food fights and quick snippets, and that tendency is only amplified and worsened when we turn to social media, where the business model depends on outraging people and feeding them insults that will keep them glued to their screens. So yes, the media needs to do a better job. We need to figure out how to rein in the effect of social media. And higher education needs to do a better job. I would not exempt the institution of which I'm a part of equipping students to be effective citizens, reasoning and arguing together about big, important, if controversial, public questions.
You know, Michael Sandel, even if you're right, your experience is such, you say students are the hope. Let's go one age group up. We talk a lot on the show about how meek this population is. You cite examples in another Western European country. They raised the annual tuition at public higher ed by $100, and there are 1 million people on the streets. If you share our perspective that most adults in this country are meek in their response to very damaging, destructive policies, what explains that?
There has to be an effective opposition. And simply responding to the daily outrage or tweet is not enough. And there have to be social movements built around platforms for public discussion and debate. I also think we need to reinvigorate forms of political participation. People don't feel that representative government of the kind we have now, where money largely buys elections, not only at the presidential level, but for Congress and the state level. But so people are frustrated with the kind of representative government. I think we should experiment with citizen assemblies at the local level, where we would take some big issue and identify by lottery citizens from all different backgrounds in a community, let them deliberate for a year.
It's government by jury, essentially.
Well,
is that not what
yes,
it is?
extending the idea of a jury, which now if a jury can determine the guilt or innocence.
That's a wonderful point.
Why can't a jury of citizens deliberate about how this or that community should deal with climate change, or the transition to a green economy, or the line between free speech and hate speech, but to do it in a way over time, informed by competing perspectives, and get some practice in the art. Tocqueville spoke about the New England township bringing the art of government into the sphere, the small sphere within our reach. So I think we need to recover something like that and maybe experiment with a proliferation of citizen assemblies, and maybe if it works, if it inspires real political participation and a better kind of public discourse, maybe we should push for a constitutional amendment that would have one house be elected and the other house consisting of a rotating citizen assembly selected by lottery. What do you think of that?
I think that's a wonderful idea.
You like
actually,
that?
I would love to have big groups of people in there discussing all the issues. But also, I mean, it's what you said before too about mixing. I'm struck by how much what we spoke with Bob Putnam earlier in the week, the Bowling Alone guy, and he talked about he was talking about that we're not we don't talk about moral issues like we used to. We're not as honest as we used to be. I don't know if you agree with that. But the idea of getting this together with talking about these big moral issues, or going to more places where we can meet with people that are not like us. Who's gonna organize that? I don't know.
Well, we have to figure that out, but it's on us. And by us, I include the media, I include higher education, I include the political parties, but don't want to rely on them. I also would include the kinds of social movements that historically have enabled citizens to come together, to reason together, and to invigorate self-government.
Are you going to be this good tomorrow night, or do you just you spend it all right here? You'll be good tomorrow?
I hope people will come.
We hope people should come. Michael, it's a joy to spend time with you. Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you.
Great to be with you.
Michael
Thank you
Sandel.
very much, Michael Sandel. We've been speaking with Michael Sandel, author of Democracy's Discontent and a bunch of other things. Tomorrow night at GBH in Brighton, he's going to deliver the inaugural Ralph Lowell Lecture in partnership with John F. Kennedy Library and GBH's Forum Network. This is free. For tickets, go to Watch Online. Go to order Watch Online. Go to gbh.org/events. That's gbh.org/events. After this quick break, Food Talk with Corby Kummer.
The best way to support your GBH radio listening is by becoming a GBH sustainer. It takes just 2 minutes to enroll and a few dollars a month on your credit card. Small monthly contributions, huge impact. Learn more at gbh.org/sustainer.
Support for GBH comes from you. And Babson College, where you can advance your career with an MBA or specialized master's at the school ranked #2 best college in the United States by the Wall Street Journal 2025. Babson.edu/grad programs. And Historic Beverly. 250 years ago, a revolution began. The American Revolution, a story of war in 28 paintings, explores the defining moment and features works highlighted in Ken Burns' upcoming documentary, historicbeverly.net. And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds. New properties are added often. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov. And Burton's Grill and Bar, offering catering for events from corporate meetings to family gatherings, with customizable meal options available for takeout and delivery. burtonsgrill.com.
Your home for trusted local news. GBH 89.7.
We dig deeper with insights and analysis you won't find anywhere else.
Providing the context you need to understand what's happening.
From Capitol Hill to Beacon Hill and why it matters to you.
GBH News. Online at gbhnews.org. Streaming on the GBH app. And always on GBH 89.7. You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Hour 3 of BPR, live from the Boston Public Library. Legendary longtime food critic for the Washington Post is stepping down, and in the process, finally revealing his long secret identity. We will talk with and see Tom Sietsema, together with food policy analyst Corby Kummer, about the world of food reviewing, and if Corby thinks a radio talk show host could make the career pivot without anyone noticing.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then, can we take your order? A piece out in the Washington Post tracks the speed and efficiency of various fast food drive-thrus across the country, allowing you the luxury of getting to buy cheap, processed garbage without even having to leave your car. That's all next in the third hour of BPR at 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. Former FBI Director James Comey has pleaded not guilty to 2 criminal charges in a Virginia courtroom today. He was charged last month with lying to Congress 5 years ago after President Trump demanded federal prosecutors speed up their investigation into one of his most prominent critics. NPR's Carrie Johnson was in the courtroom and has more.
President Trump had publicly urged the Justice Department to bring
Comey requested a jury trial, and the judge scheduled it for January 5th. In California, authorities arrested 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderneck for allegedly starting what became the devastating Pacific Palisades fire in January that left 12 people dead, more than 23,000 acres burned, and thousands of structures destroyed. Officials say he started an earlier fire that wasn't suppressed, and that became the Palisades fire. He was arrested near his home in Florida and will have an appearance in a courtroom in Orlando this afternoon. Kenny Cooper is ATF Los Angeles Special Agent in charge. He says the investigation continues.
Although we cannot share every detail of this investigation, it is still an active investigation, and judicial proceedings remain ahead.
There's no word on a motive. Air traffic control staffing issues delayed flights across the U.S. for a second straight day yesterday. NPR's Joel Rose reports the head of the controllers union says pressure is mounting as the government shutdown enters its second week.
The Federal Aviation Administration says staffing shortages have caused delays at a growing list of airports, including Nashville, Chicago O'Hare, Newark, Houston, and Dallas. Nearly 11,000 certified air traffic controllers are required to work during the government shutdown, but don't get paid until it ends. The head of the union that represents those controllers, Nick Daniels, told NPR's Morning Edition that the shutdown is making a difficult situation worse.
The longer that this lasts, it's going to place a continued strain on air traffic controllers, the stress, the pressure.
Daniels says the U.S. was already thousands of air traffic controllers short before the government shutdown. Joel Rose, NPR News, Washington.
Top officials from the U.S., Qatar, and Israel and joining a third day of talks between Israel and Hamas in Egypt. Negotiators are tackling the toughest part of a U.S. peace plan to end the war in Gaza. Hamas wants guarantees from President Trump that Israel won't resume its military campaign after Hamas releases the rest of the hostages. Meanwhile, the Israeli military has intercepted a 9-boat flotilla in the Mediterranean Sea, detaining activists who are trying to break Israel's blockade on Gaza and deliver much-needed humanitarian aid. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu condemning demonstrators accused of injuring police officers in connection with a pro-Palestinian rally in downtown Boston last night. The BPD says 4 officers were hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries, 13 demonstrators arrested. The altercations happened amid fears the Trump administration could deploy National Guard troops to Boston as it has in other cities. Wu discussed those deployments in light of last night's arrest earlier today.
Certainly, we know the federal government is looking for any and every opportunity to illegally extend their power, and we've seen that take place in cities around the country. We're following those cases very closely.
Some of the protests arrested last night were making their initial court appearances today. Joan Bennett Kennedy, the former wife of the late Senator Edward M. Kennedy, has died. Mrs. Kennedy was married to Senator Kennedy for 24 years and was the mother to his 3 children, Cara, Ted Jr., and Patrick. She was raised in a conservative Republican home, but her life quickly changed when she married Ted Kennedy in 1958, just as the Kennedys were ramping up their political careers. By 1962, at the age of 25, she became the youngest wife of the youngest U.S. senator ever elected in the history of the United States. Joan Kennedy was also a classical pianist, music teacher, and advocate for mental health and addiction services. Her family says she passed away peacefully in her sleep at her home in Boston this morning. She was 89. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing, and trading on Thinkorswim. Learn more at schwab.com. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Hello again, Jim.
So, do you know what I spent the news break doing?
Talking to Michael Sandel.
No. I spoke to him. Corby was talking to him. Corby, it turns out, in addition to whatever else Corby does, was Michael's editor at one point, we just learned. But much more importantly, I'm watching a video on TikTok of Michael's son setting the Guinness record of most pull-ups in 60 seconds.
Oh my
God.
Oh.
Adam Sandell, check him out. He's unbelievable. Joined now live at the library desk by Corby Kummer, Executive Director of the Food and Society Policy Program at the Aspen Institute, Senior Editor at the Atlantic, and a Senior Lecturer at Tufts Friedman School of Nutrition, Science, and Policy. And he brings with him a special guest via Zoom. We've spoken to this guy before. Tom Sietsema is the wonderful outgoing food critic for the Washington Post. Now, in 2016, Margaret and I were there for a week in Washington, covering, and I put that in quotes, the first Trump inaugural. We almost blew this guy's cover. He joined us. One of our esteemed producers took his picture, was about to blast it all over the internet, and we stopped it with seconds to spare. But he joins us now on camera for the world to see, and that is one good-looking head there, Tom Sietsema.
Well,
let me tell you, it's great to see you. Welcome.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and great to see Corby, too.
Do you remember the anxiety you felt when you heard that Amanda, who's our producer, was seconds away from posting your photograph online?
I do. You know, that identity is something you really protect as a big city food critic, right? In a certain era, we don't need to worry about that so much anymore, but I've always protected my identity, so I even stepped out of family photos a lot of time. There aren't that many pictures of me out there, actually.
Wow.
I love that.
Wow. So what is the reaction to your kind of coming out as a regular guy? Have you gotten any comments?
It's a normal person, yeah.
It has been really like a love fest. It's been so nice, and I think part of that is because food is such a personal thing, you know, and I think food writers, food reporters, food critics have a different sort of relationship with their audiences than do, say, political or other journalists, because, I don't know, there's this intimacy involved in what we do. You know, you're putting things in your mouth and eating them and sharing things together. And I've just been enormously pleased, but also liberated. I like being, you know, just me.
Why are you leaving, Tom?
I am leaving for a bunch of reasons. One, the Washington Post offered buyouts, and honestly, I saw that as I had just completed my 25th year and done a big anniversary spread for that. And I thought this could be seed money for my next adventure. I also went to a food symposium over this summer where I heard Jose Andres, who needs no introduction, say, you know, encourage people to dream out loud. And when you talk about things that you might be scared of doing, it sort of liberates you because you own that now, right? And I've been thinking about making a change anyway. I mean, I've been all over. I've written 1,200 reviews plus and 50 dining guides. I feel like I've done it all. The thing I'll miss most is not the free food, it's the free food that Jeff Bezos ultimately pays for, but the fact of getting people together on a regular basis to commune and have food. And I plan to do that at home now with non-salons and lamb burger nights. Or I would accommodate people who don't like lamb, but it's something I still want to have fun people get together, discuss ideas, and just bring more joy in our lives. It's hugely important, and we've never needed it more than right now.
Okay, Corby Kummer, you're an astute critic of writing and writers and food critics. Was it any good?
Fabulous. And what he's
move your mic up just about a quarter.
What
Perfect.
Good. Leaving out, aside the fact that he modeled in college, as you immediately.
Wow.
Maybe he's embarrassed by this, but as you immediately picked up, he's saying, cut that off. Is that Tom made a connection with his readers that was unique among restaurant critics. He did service journalism in the most, you were talking about communitarian spirit with the great Michael Sandel just now. Tom formed community. He wasn't just part of a community. His Ask Me Anything, Ask Tom, I think it was called, every week. The work you put into that, the generosity in taking everyone's questions seriously and giving them dignity in what they asked and in your responses is unlike any restaurant critic I've known, and we've had very long careers. Mine for half the time of yours as a working restaurant critic, but the respect you gave your community and the love they gave you back because of it. I don't think that anyone's going to have that kind of care and concern about their readers that you demonstrated.
Well, I hate to.
Corby,
that was beautiful.
Corby, thank you. That is just so kind, and I am in awe of your huge body of work back at you.
Well, I have to take issue with what Corby said about Tom Sietsema. Respect for his communities. I remember it's emblazoned on my soul. Right before we met you, you had written a piece about the 10 best food cities in America, Tom Sietsema. Do you know what city was not on the list? Or do you remember?
I know that Boston was one of them.
Yeah, did not make the list. Now, what you should say, I don't want to tell you what to say, but I will. You should say, if I were writing the piece in 2025, 10 years later, they would make the list. Would they make the list?
I'm sure they would make the list. It's been a while since I've been to Boston.
It's been a long time since Tom's been here.
Boston has really good food critics, and always has. And, I'm in awe of what they do there. It's, it didn't make that list then, and that was in 2015, 2016. Yeah. So I'm sorry.
While we have you for another minute, I think you know this. Margie and I are huge fans of yours. We're not having you here because you're a colleague and friend of Corby's. We read you all the time. We really admire your work. One of the things I think you're responsible for, were you the first guy who first did the sound level readings in restaurants? Were you the first?
He was
Actually, I think Michael Bauer at the San Francisco Chronicle initiated that, and I started it up a couple of years after I began in 2000. But it's hugely important. I think people, it's part of the hospitality aspect of a dining experience, right? And I hope I'm not known exclusively for adding sound checks, but people responded, and so did restaurants.
Yeah, well, I think one of the theories was that if it was really noisy, that meant it was a more hip and trendy restaurant, and that's one of the reasons they did it. But it's overkill sometimes.
No one wants to walk into a mausoleum, right?
Yeah.
You want some energy in a restaurant, but you don't want to have to repeat all your jokes.
Exactly. Scream across.
Lips.
Yeah.
Right.
Scream across the table.
But in answer to what you said, I hope I'm not just remembered for that. Your food writing, the legendary piece about dishwashing. I mean, your body, I hate to fawn over you, but I will for 2 more seconds. Your of food critics. One of the issues, by the way, I'll add something to that question. We've talked to Corby about this before. We had Frank Rich on the show a couple of years ago. We were talking about when he was known as the Butcher of Broadway. People spend millions of dollars. Frank Rich, who was then the theater critic for the New York Times many years ago, write one review, shut the damn thing down. You and Corby, when he was doing a lot of restaurant reviews, food writing, well, he does a lot of food writing still, have that same power. What do you tell people, the next generation of food writers, about the exercise of that power, Tom Sietsema?
I think you need to respect that power and respect the brand that you're with, right? And I realize, you think you know how to do these jobs, and then you get into the job, and it's awesome. I mean, people's jobs are on the line in many cases, right? I did try and write more positive reviews than negatives, but I had no fear of going back, to places that really deserved spanking, so to speak, right? I think one needs to respect the position, take the job seriously, but not oneself. I think it's good to poke fun of yourself and always be on the side of the consumers, always.
Do you share that advice to the next generation of the Tom Sietsema?
Well, absolutely. I spent 3.5 hours with Tufts Friedman students talking about restaurant criticism yesterday. We had Denver First join us very generously. And we talked a great deal about where do they get their restaurant information, and it's social media much more than the likes of us. But that kind of responsibility, I think that both Tom and I viewed our platforms as an ability to help local businesses. And so certainly I was only writing 1 review a month, and so I definitely tried to keep it to someplace we could help and bring business into, and young people have put everything on the line. And so, Tom, your sense of responsibility to the community, but also always keeping the reader in place. And spankings, for better and worse, are what people love to read.
They love to read those. I also tell young chefs, never believe your own press. And I would remind myself of that too. Never believe your own press. Always treat every day as if it's a new opportunity to get more people to read you, to follow you, because it's very easy with this kind of power, with this kind of platform that you have, to lose it if you lose your credibility.
Tom, I know I speak for Marjorie. We can't wait to consume your next act. Thanks for all you've done.
Congratulations.
And thanks for being here today. It's great to see you.
Thank you so very much. I'm so pleased to be joining you all today. Thank you for
really
having me.
Thank you.
Great Tom Sietsema, retiring as the food critic at the Washington Post.
But Corby Kummer, thank goodness, is not retiring anytime soon, we hope. So he's with us today. And let's change gear a little bit and talk about some of the stories we put together to talk to you about today. Okay, we've had a lot of talk about ultra-processed foods. That's been one of the things we've been hearing from RFK Jr. endlessly. Great piece in the Washington Post about what a scientist who studies them actually eats.
Oh gosh, the Kevin Hall diet piece.
Yes.
I can't remember what he eats every day, but I just read his book. So Kevin Hall and Juliette Kayyem, who's a terrific food journalist, have written a book called Food Intelligence, and it's just come out, and it's about diets. And remind me of what he ate, because it's not going to be the most exemplary
I don't
thing.
think he goes into great detail. He says he has some snacks that are crappy.
I read
but
the book.
His contention is some ultra-processed food. And by the way, this is the guy, I don't know if he coined the term, but he elevated the notion of ultra-processed.
No, here's what he did.
What did he do?
He locked people in chambers, which sounds cruel, and it sort of is, but it's hugely expensive. He was at the National Institutes of Health, and for 2 weeks, he would feed them diets made of ultra-processed food or made of food from scratch. And the diets had the same nutritional profile, same salt, sugar, fat, and calories. And they could take at will. They could have as much. On ultra-processed food, they ate 500 more calories a day and gained 2 pounds a week. It was a shocking result. And then the ones who were on from scratch. Why? Nobody knows. Kevin Hall doesn't know. And he was doing a very expensive follow-up study. There are many working theories. Fiber. Does fiber help you with satiety? Were they not having enough liquid? Because ultra-processed foods have a lot of liquid taken out of them. Nobody knows. And he resigned from the NIH earlier this year because he felt they were asking him to doctor his findings.
Yeah.
And the last straw for him was when he was asked by the New York Times a couple of questions about a new ultra-processed food study that had come out, and the White House doctored his own responses to the answers under his name without asking him, and he thought, no, I can't do that. He was on the verge of returning to head their Office of Nutrition Research, and it fell apart. So he's a prophet right now, and I want him to be restored to his research perch because he, among all researchers in the world, was on the verge of finding out what it is about ultra-processed food that makes us eat more and gain more weight.
Okay, well, I have no idea, obviously, because I'm not an expert, but and by the way, that was a terrible story you just told about what the White House was doing, but lying is a big thing in this administration. But it seems to me, if you have a bag of potato chips, you're going to eat the whole bag of potato chips. If you have a plate full of broccoli or a bowl of fruit, there's not the same urge to keep eating every single piece. That's my
But there's a calorie
theory.
equivalency in the two groups, was there not?
It isn't just that. It's not like with the ultra-processed food diet, he would stick potato chips in front of them. It wasn't that. It was still lovely things like salmon and 3-bean salad and lots of grilled vegetables. It's just that it was taken out of various packages. It was presented in a lovely way, by the way. You couldn't really see in the photographs of the dishes. So it wasn't like there were potato chips that were engineered through their salt to have that famous bliss point and people can't stop eating them. That wasn't it. It was that they just didn't feel satisfied, maybe because the fiber just wasn't filling their bellies enough. He was on the verge of trying to find out why, because he was well into multi-hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of research, like 80%, like so many of the studies that have been pulled because of the pulling in of scientific funding. And he just left it, and I don't know if that research is going to be followed up on.
You know, I knew very little about him, unlike you, obviously. And one of the things I liked in this piece in the Washington Post is that he was, while he is a campaigner against ultra-processed foods, he also acknowledged that he ate them. And I think the value of that, I don't know how you feel about this. If you're a purist when it comes to food, the likelihood, in my opinion, of converting people to your cause is very small, because most of us think we can't meet that standard. But when I read that final paragraph in the story, and he says, I eat them and I love them, and some of them aren't that horrible, don't you think that invites more people in? Why are you smirking at me?
Oh, sure, because his pal and our pal, Marion Nessa, will say, Fritos, they're just 2 ingredients. I eat them all the time. And there's plenty of foods. He'll point out that most yogurt that we buy, if it has any fruit in it, really most yogurt that we buy, unless it's completely unflavored, is ultra-processed. Almost all packaged bread is ultra-processed. Canned beans, things that are really innocent. So ultra-processed is a very tricky label.
Talking to Corby Kummer.
He did have a pretty good diet, though.
What was it?
Well, he said what he usually has for breakfast is leftovers from the night before.
No, that's lunch. He only has coffee for breakfast, he said, I thought.
Well, he says he's breakfast. He's not a breakfast eater. He might have a piece of fruit or some nuts or hard-boiled eggs. And then you're right. What he has for lunch is leftovers from the night before. And then he talks about having things for dinner like marinara sauce, frozen scallops, whole wheat pasta. Sounds pretty healthy to me.
No, but he said that some of the marinara sauce, the jarred marinara sauce, which he uses, is ultra-processed, right?
That's right. It's got sugar and sodium in it, but he tries to get low sugar and sodium.
The best and most knowledgeable researchers are not scolds.
Yeah.
It's influencers who are scolds.
Yeah.
I'm talking to Corby Kummer.
Okay, Corby Kummer, do you want to talk about the cocktail, the Taylor Swift cocktail?
I don't want to talk about that.
Okay, then you want to talk about industry ties?
Do you want to talk about the Taylor Swift? No, he doesn't want to do that either. So this should not be Civil Eats, which is a great publication.
We'll go to Civil Eats.
Really writes a piece, not surprisingly, say that almost all the people who are staffing the critical departments around food, nutrition, and health come from the industries that are the biggest problem when it comes to nutrition, health, and those sort of things. I mean, that's no surprise. I mean, the Trump administration.
It's no surprise, but like the best journalism, this goes into specifics for, I think, like 24 positions in food and environmental agencies. And it says exactly what their ties are, and it names the names. And so even though we assume in a sort of a vast right-wing conspiracy way that they're all tied to industry and it's the foxes guarding the henhouse, you sort of go pale when you read one after another. Worked for the law firms that were representing polluting industries, that were trying to combat all regulation of like forever chemicals and Superfund cleanups and just all these things, and we were representing Boar's Head, which had that huge food poisoning scandal. Processed meats, I'll be a scold and say ultra-processed meats are processed meats are one of the most dangerous things you can eat.
Also one of the best tasting things you can eat. But
well, that you, Jim Browdy, can eat if it's liverwurst.
Liver, thank you very much.
But, other than that, and the Meat Institute, so it's not that every single one, and even as the article takes pains to point out, in the Biden administration at the FDA, plenty of people had come, like the head of food safety had been at Walmart for years. He was a crusader about food safety and getting more money for inspectors, which is always the problem at FDA. They don't have the money to enforce any of the regulations. But Civil Eats really went above and beyond, and so now they have the reference for dozens of positions in the EPA and Office of Chemical Safety, CDC, and then when you read that RFK Jr. made $11 million just from one law firm, and a lot of it is representing people who are suspecting vaccines of being unsafe, I mean, that was really surprising to me.
Yeah. The 60 Minutes this week did a thing about vaccine safety. I thought it was very interesting because they do say when you go get your kids vaccinated, there is a tiny chance, like getting struck by lightning or something like that you could wind up getting hurt by vaccines. But the point was of this piece, it is extremely, extremely rare. And there's actually a vaccine court where you can go and litigate your cases, because it does happen, but it's extremely rare.
Well, there's an end to that sentence, too. In COVID, it came up nonstop. While the risk is very small, how does that compare to the risk of being unvaccinated
there's
for all
no
those things.
comparison.
It's not even in the
Exactly.
same. And it's fairly stunning that you read all that stuff. About
NPR's Throughline did a terrific hour on the history of vaccine skepticism. I heard it on Sunday night, and it dates back to there was a terrible. Did you know about the terrible Qatar incident?
No.
A supposedly live vaccine. It's killed a virus. There were 200 cases of polio in kids, and
That's
I think 12 kids died.
Back in the 50s.
That was in the mid-50s, and yet the then new CDC, it's a post-war phenomenon, the CDC, said we're going to shut down vaccinations for only a week and test every batch, and public trust resumed mostly. But there were journalists at an ABC affiliate in Washington, D.C. in 1962 who cast out, I can't remember the name of it, but it began vaccine skepticism for the MMR vaccine.
There you go.
Corby
Hey, Corby.
Kummer, that was really fun.
Very nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for bringing us Tom Sietsema. We really appreciate it.
Who's the new food? We should have asked him. Who's the new food critic?
They haven't named the new food critic yet, but what I'm very interested in is will newspapers continue to invest in food critics?
It's a very, very good question.
And I hope
they
will.
do. So do I. Good to see
you
you,
don't have
Corby.
to rely on Yelp. We're speaking with Corby Kummer, Executive Director of the Food and Society Policy Program at the Aspen Institute, a Senior Editor at The Atlantic, and a Senior Lecturer at the Tufts Friedman School of Nutrition, Science, and Policy. Coming up after this quick break, we're going to talk food with America's love of the drive-thru. He is Jim Braude. I'm Marjorie Egan. Listen to 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live at the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
In Italy, a supervolcano outside of Naples is stirring in a way it hasn't for centuries. Hundreds of thousands of people live in the crater left by its past eruptions.
One thing that you learn very soon is that we do not have the control. Nature has the control.
I'm Mary Louise Kelly. We hear from the scientists studying the volcano at its crater on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Gentle Giant Moving Company, official moving and storage provider for the head of the Charles Regatta, employing rowers and athletes since 1980 and currently hiring to join their team. More at gentlegiant.com. And the Bach Center, presenting Herbie Hancock, the groundbreaking jazz musician and Grammy Award-winning icon. Herbie Hancock at the Bach Center Wang Theater, Wednesday, October 29th. Tickets at bachcenter.org.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan and Jim Braude. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're still a little concerned about the phone line situation. The company that runs the phones is still experiencing rolling outages. And rather than spend the last 20 plus minutes of the show anxious about the phones, we are playing it safe and re-airing a segment we did back earlier this year about drive-thrus and the time that Marjorie thrives on, where I did get stuck in a McDonald's play space. We hope to be back at full capacity with the phones and everything tomorrow. But in the meantime, we hope you enjoy this segment. And of course, because it's a re-air, please don't call in. And if you're here, stick around for the Culture Show live at the library at 2 o'clock. 5 years ago, McDonald's play spaces across the country closed their doors to the hungry, huddled masses. The COVID-19 pandemic upended how we do a lot of things, fast food included. Drive-thru traffic soared. Nearly 83% of all fast food purchases came through the Squawk Box during the pandemic. But there's great disparity in the fast food drive-thru world, especially when it comes to idling time. Taco Bell, do you know this, Marjorie, for instance, gets its customers through the line in just 4 minutes. That would include Donald Trump, of course, while Chick-fil-A customers wait nearly 8 to get their secret sauce, according to some data analysis from the Washington Post. I want to hear from you, from your drive-through horror stories or delights. Are you a drive-through aficionado? What do you do when somebody in front of you places a huge order, which you should not be allowed to do? And what do you do if you place your own order? You drive away to find out that the hot mustard dipping sauce for the McNuggets is nowhere to be found.
Well, we should start out then with
Can I give the number
Joe
first?
Pesci.
What did Joe Pesci have to say?
He's giving us all advice about drive-ins from the beloved 89 classic buddy comedy Lethal Weapon 2.
Can I give you two guys a friendly piece of advice, okay? Don't ever go up to the drive-thru, okay? Always walk up to the counter. You know why? Okay. I'm gonna say it. Okay. They you at the drive-thru, okay? They you at the drive-thru. They know you're gonna be miles away before you find out you got okay? They know you're not gonna turn around and go back. So they don't care who gets okay, sure. I don't give a I'm not eating this tuna, okay?
Shut up! That's actually pretty close to reality
That is
sometimes.
a good point, right? That's why you have to check your menu before you leave the window.
But
of
if
the
you do,
drive-thru.
then you're pissing off the people behind you,
You are, but
who are waiting in line. Do you
So
have any
they-
drive-through? By the way, you probably haven't been in a fast food place since your kids were young.
I have not. Well,
that
that's not
true?
true. That's not true. I've been to the drive-thru at Dunkin' Donuts.
You have?
Yeah, because often you're driving home, you get
you
the
get a
drive-thru
cup
at
of
Dunkin',
coffee,
get
yeah.
a cup of coffee, a couple of donuts, to get you through the end of the rest. So I've been there a lot.
I go
and
to
that's always
McDonald's
fun.
on Western
You have to
Ave.
shout at them a lot,
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do, because the hearing, the communication is not as great in the so-called squawk box.
Do you want
as
an
they say.
interesting factoid I learned in preparation for this segment?
What would that be,
The
Jim?
average wait overall at all fast food places is, which I did not know, is 5.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Guess how much AI reduces the 5.5 minutes? You'll be stunned.
Not by that much.
11 seconds.
I was surprised.
I
They
mean,
have to get
really.
better. But there's a lot of feeling that the pandemic really changed everything into the comforting isolation of their cars to get tested for COVID, to celebrate birthdays, and even vote. And now it seems they don't want to get out of their cars, at least not to eat. So that's why we don't want to interact with people. That's why we stay in the cars. We have less tolerance for strangers.
That's not the only reason. You want another good reason to go through drive-thru? A pet.
A pet is a great
Right.
reason to go through the
I
drive-thru.
ordinarily, if Teslas were not under attack, I would tell you that the Tesla has a dog mode, but I won't tell you, where you press the dog mode.
Oh, I've
button,
heard of this.
And it provides air so you can leave the
conditioning.
dog in the car.
Yeah.
And the big screen, which I'm not going to mention because we don't talk about Teslas, says the dog is fine or some such thing.
I know, but people
so when
would
the
still
cop
be
comes
freaked
to
out.
arrest you.
But people would still be freaked
Yeah.
out because they wouldn't know that, and they see the dog in the car.
No,
in the
they would
summertime.
know. There's a big sign on the dashboard.
What is this? Well,
it
yeah,
says
just
your
look at the
dog is fine.
dashboard.
Is the dog? You can't miss it. It's huge.
That's if you're sitting in the car.
screen. Well, no, you look through the window.
You look
You
through
see
the
this-
window. Okay.
So what are you saying? It's pets, limited human contact, and 5 minutes is really not so bad.
Now, I just want to mention one other thing, and that, of course, is the all-important play area. I did not know that the first play area was started in 1971.
I didn't know that.
And the ball pit came into being at McDonald's in 1976.
How many diseases do you think were in the average ball pit?
Well, that was one of the concerns. That's why they shut down during the pandemic. Yes,
Oh.
but if you had kids in the 80s or the 90s or even the early 2000s when they started to disappear, you probably spent a lot of time at the play area because you could sit there forever with your plays, your kids there.
In the balls.
And Jim had a tragic occurrence. It wasn't at the McDonald's.
Wasn't
actually.
tragic.
It was.
Burger King on Route 1.
It was at the Burger King
Not
on Route 1.
tragic.
It was tragic. Jim climbed into the tunnel. You went into the tunnel, right, to rescue your kid? And what happened, Jim?
First of all, my daughter, who was a young single digits at the time, crawls into the thing, and there's a spider in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's a long
tunnel.
set of tunnels.
Long tunnel.
And she freaks out, so she can't go any further. So what I do, not knowing I'd be ridiculed for 25 years by Marjorie about it, is I crawl into it behind her. Now, there are two problems with this. One, as soon as I approached her, what happened? The spider moved away.
She crawled
She
out.
crawls
That's
out
right.
the other side. Now, the other problem is, how do I put this? My rear end was a little large for the tunnel in the middle, and I did get stuck in the middle of the tunnle.
The kids can't get by.
I couldn't
They're
get out.
crying.
Oh, forget
They
they
can't
couldn't
get
get
the
by. I
man to
couldn't
move.
get out.
They always have to call the fire department to come in with the jaws of life.
Enough already.
To get them out of there. What do they use? Do they use some?
They use the jaws of
spray
life.
oil?
They put
I think
they used
Crisco
olive oil on the jaws of life.
Yeah.
877. We're not discussing players.
Okay.
877.
I forgot to play the clip.
What is it?
This is a recording our staff got. This was when Jim was not stuck in the tunnel, but he was at the drive-thru at McDonald's in Brighton.
Oh, help and bother. I'm stuck.
Oh, dear. Oh, gracious.
Oh,
That's not funny at all. This is offensive. Some stupid Winnie the Pooh thing. It's not funny at all. Why are you laughing at that?
I thought it was
it's
a
not
riot.
even funny at all.
Okay, let's go to Marla in Westboro. What do you think, Marla?
Hello, Marla. Welcome.
Hi. If I couldn't find an easier way to get a Diet Coke on the run, I would do it. But McDonald's is my go-to for a Diet Coke.
That's great
all
to
I
hear.
want from there is a Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, we know that.
50% of the time, I don't get Diet Coke. I get Coke, even though I sincerely, very specifically request Diet.
That's a problem. Do you give it back to them?
To the place,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have to drive back around because I don't discover it till
Wait, you
I've
get
gotten
back in
away
the
from
line?
drive-thru.
You get back in the
I
line?
go back around. I bypass the line.
Oh.
I go to the window, and they look at me like I have 8 heads. Honest to goodness.
8 heads.
And they groan at me, and I say, this is not a Diet Coke, and they kind of roll their eyes.
Oh, jeez.
And they give me another one. But I say, this happens half the time.
Wait a minute.
And so now I sit where I got the supposed Diet Coke.
It's a great story.
And I put the straw in it. You're taking too much time.
Yeah.
I said, I want to make sure I'm getting a Diet Coke. And
You got to do it.
That's brilliant.
You got to sit there and check the bag and check the diet. Now,
But
Marla,
Marla-
how do you cut the line?
She just walks up to it, I guess.
They don't like that.
No, I just drive my car around, and there's usually, I only do that really if there's nobody, in
that's
that
a
line,
felony in
made it up
3
to the
states.
drive
Do you know that,
window.
Marla, or not?
Yeah, they don't like it if you get out of your car and walk back.
Massachusetts, I know it should not be allowed.
Marla, that was a fabulous story. Thank you for sharing that. And I like your style that you stay until you've tasted the Coke
You
to
got to
make sure
stay
you got
until
the
you
proper
check
thing.
to see that your purchases in the bag are actually what you ordered. Here's a Gen Xer here who says McDonald's, Playland, and birthday parties were the best. I miss those simpler days when they would even give you a sundae if you showed up in a Halloween costume. Remember they had those huge, enclosed slides you could go down, you could look out the windows. They had the tunnels that Jim could get stuck in. But apparently they became a big liability nightmare.
Because of disease.
Harmful bacteria. That was
Really?
one of the reasons. People got second-degree burns. I don't know how you get second-degree burns in the play place. But, yeah, they harmful bacteria.
You know what they did at the one in Central Square, which was, I think it's still there, not the ball, but
came
the
in with
thing.
bleach or
No,
Lysol?
they actually, before you went in the ball pit, they gave you an mRNA shot. And you had to wait 15 minutes to make sure you're okay before you went in the ball pit. Okay.
But I think the drive-thru is very popular when you get small kids. You don't want to take them out of the car seats. You just stay in the car. And if you got pets, you don't want to have to get out of the car and go in and order. Let's go to
How
Margaret.
about Marion? Wait a second. Marion Medway, the best one of all is the drive-thru wedding. It is so efficient. Do they have those in Las Vegas
I don't know.
or something?
Do they have those?
I don't know. Get an order of fries with it, too.
Margot in New Hampshire. What do you think, Margot?
Hi there, it's Margot from Hancock.
Oh, hey, Margot.
We love Hancock.
Hi. So you already know from being here that there aren't a lot of opportunities for drive-thrus, but and I'm not convinced people love the drive-thru, but I am 100% convinced that they hate going in to the building.
Yeah.
That's my take on that. And the few times I will go to a drive-thru, it's pretty minimal, and only if there's no line. And even that is better than actually parking the car and going into a Wendy's or McDonald's or whatever.
There you go. Margot from New Hampshire. Thank you very much for the call.
Right.
Now, apparently...
Hey, say hi for us to everybody. Obviously, Margot, you know that. It's good to talk to you.
Apparently, people are... The drive-thru is becoming so popular that they're shutting down... Different places are shutting down restaurants. Not even going to have restaurants.
Wait, you only have
anymore.
a drive-thru?
Yeah, they're talking ridiculous. About... and other places that didn't have one are getting them. Shake Shack, which started as a hot dog stand in Manhattan in 2001, now has more than 500 restaurants. Just opened its first drive-thru in Maple Grove, Minnesota, 4 years ago. Sweet Green, another company that you think of kind of healthy food sort of place, big salads, they opened a lane last year too, so they're starting to get into the drive-thru business.
One.
Well, we've become very anti. Well, they don't have that many yet, Jim. They haven't come here yet.
Can I read from Paul from Fort Lauderdale? He's in Florida. He says, here in Florida, you're not supposed to laugh at this, elderly often order into the trash can instead of the speaker.
Yeah, well, we'll be there soon.
It's usually entertaining unless you're
can.
trying to get to work. But Paul ended nicely. Sorry about Jim stuck in the tube. Okay, Winnie the Pooh again. We don't really need that. 877-301-8970.
So listen to this. There are all these places like Taco Bell where they're opening these restaurants with no dining room. At this particular one, the kitchen is on the second floor. Below, 3 of its 4 drive-through lanes are reserved for delivery drivers.
Why are you so, you're like really out of your mind over this. Why are you so moved or impressed? Or...
Well, I guess it just shows that people really don't want to go into these restaurants anymore.
Yeah.
They have 4 lanes of drive-through.
Wow, Marjorie, 4.
And no restaurant.
And no restaurant.
At all. I told you.
That's
I was in
amazing.
Dorchester. I was
You
in
were?
Columbia Road,
You
yeah.
were?
And I went to get some coffee at McDonald's, and you couldn't go into the restaurant. It was locked.
That is
you
one
had
of
to go to the
the most
drive-through.
incredible stories
yeah.
I've ever heard.
And it was a little
actually.
dicey. You know why?
No, I
Because
don't.
there were 2 lanes in the drive-through, and the merge could have been a very tense situation.
Now, let me tell you
Jim.
something. If you Google who had the first drive-through, what will come up is In-N-Out Burger.
Yep.
What's that called? Jungle style? What's that
I
called
don't know.
again?
That was
Thank you,
says
Aiden. Animal style.
1948.
No, but let me tell
That was
you,
a long
we
time ago.
both know that we read a story a few years ago that there was some guy in California who opened the first drive-through before In-N-Out Burger. And what did he do like 10 years ago?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. He closed the drive-through. Why did he close the
because
drive-through?
he thought people were getting too fat.
Too fat in this country.
Yeah, it was a method to combat obesity. Yeah, that was kind of the trend. And by the way, our staff has put up a picture of the place at McDonald's.
Well, that's not very helpful for people listening to the show.
No, but I'll explain what it is.
What is it?
It's 2 lonely chairs in the corner of the
that's very
McDonald's
sad.
with 2 screens, so the kids can sit there in front of the 2 screens and play video games or something while they're waiting for
That's so-
they're waiting for the food.
Do you want to take call? Or
Yeah,
what
let's
are you
go to
doing here?
Marlene in Rhode Island.
Hello,
Hi,
Marlene in Rhode Island.
Hi, Marjorie and Jim. First-time caller.
We love first calls.
I
Hi.
love you, too,
Well,
and
thank you.
I laugh.
You do?
Well, most of the time I laugh.
Well, yeah.
But I'm calling about, I can't understand these drive-thrus. I look at Dunkin' Donuts, and I pull in, and there's 20 people in line.
Yeah.
I walk in, I get my coffee,
That's an excellent
and
point.
they're still in line. I say, get your lazy bum out of the car and go in there and get it.
And why do you think they don't,
How can
Marlene?
they stand sitting there?
This is a
in that
brilliant
line?
first call. I'm so glad you made this point. Why do you think they don't do exactly as you do, Marlene?
I really don't know.
You don't know.
I guess they just. Do you enjoy sitting there in this line and not,
it's
waiting
like masochism.
like 15 minutes to get
Yeah,
a coffee?
I don't
or
get it.
Like same thing, Starbucks, anywhere. I go in the place and get it. And then if you get the wrong thing,
Yeah.
you see it right then.
Let me tell you something.
You
The
gotta
fact
check.
that
You
you
gotta
had the
check.
courage to say what you said and no one else has, Marlene, and makes an excellent first call. Thank you for doing it. Brian from Billerica says drive-through funeral homes in Florida. You don't drive through, you just drive.
So do you
And
drive
then you-
through, look at the body, wave, and keep going? Or
Well,
who's driving
I haven't
through?
done that.
Obviously, the
No.
hearse is not driving through. It's the people that are coming
Why do you
to...
say that? Oh,
Well, I mean...
there's no real point if it's the hearse because the body's in there. Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, if you look through the window.
You know what the
in
person
parking
didn't
lot?
say a minute ago?
What?
When the elderly customer orders
Can
at the
you put
trash
up
can.
a picture of the tunnel that
What?
Jim got stuck in.
That's not.
bother.
Okay. Why can't you explain to me why
It
you
wasn't
find
a
this
tunnel.
is
It was like a
amusing?
rope thing. It was
No,
kind
it was
of like
not a rope thing. It was a
wasn't
plastic
tunnel.
tube. Yes, it was.
It was a plastic tube.
Plastic tube.
God,
yeah.
that's even worse.
And it was not made
Plastic
for
tube.
however old I was then. Rear ends at that particular point.
A surprise truth is that COVID...
And no, the answer is we can't put up a picture of it. But thank you. Even if we had it, we can't. So stop asking, everybody. Stop asking.
That'd be great. I'd get a big kick out of that.
Okay.
A surprise truth is that COVID-19 originated from a McDonald's ball pit. But the truth will never come out because Trump is such a McDonald's fan. That's from
probably
Jay
true.
in Brighton.
So here is, this is amazing. Our staff, which Marjorie refers to as her staff, actually, apparently, so they say, got sound of me at the drive-thru at McDonald's in Brighton, which is the one I go to. I usually get the 2 for $3.99, Marjorie.
Uh-huh.
You can get a double cheeseburger,
Yeah.
a McChicken, or 2 of these 3 things, or a 6-piece McNuggets.
Wow.
For $3.99.
That's swell.
So here, they say they have it. Here's the sound of me ordering, and I'm very respectful all
Mm-hmm.
the time at the McDonald's in Brighton. Here it is.
I would like to buy a burger.
The funniest bit that's Steve Martin in the Pink Panther. The funniest bit is when he's was he a spy in the Pink Panther? Yeah. And they're training him to speak like an American
Inspector
would.
Clouseau or something?
I would like a hamburger.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
That's one of the ways he tries doing it.
Okay, David Shrewsbury says the most frustrating thing about the drive-thru is not getting napkins. Happens all the time. Any drive-thru employee who gives a customer an order without napkins should be fired.
Can I tell you, I can live without the napkins because I store napkins in my console.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
But if the dip for the don't mention that.
Actually, Tesla comes with a special napkin.
No, they have someone
dispenser.
deliver the napkins to you. If you don't get the dip, I think people can relate to this.
The dip
if you buy like McNuggets and you drive away and you don't have the dip or any sort of dippable kind of things, it's very, very upsetting.
Supposedly there are drive-through pizza and drive-through gun stores in some areas of the South.
Wouldn't you believe that?
I don't know.
Kevin in Brookline, welcome to the show. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, friends. First off, thank you for this topic. Just for nice.
Oh, are you our buddy, Kevin?
I am indeed. How are you?
Kevin. Hi, Kevin. How are you? It's so nice to talk to you. How are you?
Good. You're keeping us sane, and we appreciate the good.
You're a sweetheart. What's up?
I gotta mention In-N-Out Burger in California and the West Coast, which up until recently has only been drive-through.
I didn't know that.
It's so successful for them that I'll say fairly recently when they started doing dine-in, they were worried that it was going to wreck their model. And instead, it's still busy no matter what. Because like Market Basket here, they go out of their way only to hire like really friendly and competent people, and it's fantastic. It's fresh, and so I think that if you go out of your way to do things right, which is tough these days, you'll only be rewarded for it.
Now, Kevin, I want to know, what do you think is better, Shake Shack or In-N-Out Burger?
Good question, Marjorie.
That's a great question. And when I bring my kids to Shake Shack, I ask myself that question with every bite. They're pretty comparable. They're pretty comparable. I think the only difference is that why In-N-Out Burger won't come to the East Coast is they won't go because they don't have any freezers. They won't go anywhere if there's not a meat plant within like 200 miles.
Is that true?
To bring stuff. It is absolutely true. Look it up. It's an amazing thing. In fact, I want to call them because I found a meat plant in New York, which is just under the 200-mile radius. So I'll be looking for investors soon, Jim. You and I.
I think I'm ready. Hey, Kevin, it is wonderful to hear your voice. Call us again soon, and thanks for the info on In-N-Out Burger. You were in California. Did they have it?
Yeah,
Not when you were
I
at
went
Stanford.
to one.
They
I went to one. Yes.
Or subsequent?
This is last year when I was out in California. They went to one. It was
pretty good.
Everybody's lined up in their uniforms. It's like a model of efficiency. You know what I mean? You have the sense that we're all concerned about efficiency. I think Shake Shack is better.
Kevin said very nice things about the people working in In-N-Out Burger. Yep. Can I do a shout out to the women who work at the drive-thru at the Western Ave McDonald's?
Absolutely, Jim.
They really, I'm serious, they are incredibly friendly. And despite...
How often are you there?
Occasionally. That's generally what I say. And they say, yes, feel free to buy a burger.
Okay.
Now, let me just say this. What am I going to say? What was I saying? They never get your order wrong there, I should say. And that's I hate this criticism of this. Why are you laughing? Because someone said something about me getting stuck in the tube?
But it's a funny
text.
What
is it? What?
Well, it's not that funny. It's kind of a dilemma.
What is it?
I once ordered 2 cheeseburgers from McDonald's, drove away, got on the Mass Turnpike, took a bite, only to realize they'd given me 2 cheeseburgers minus the actual burgers. I only got the buns, cheese melted, pickles, and ketchup. That's from
great.
Tina from Munson.
So what'd she do? She didn't finish?
Well, she didn't tell us what she did, but that's why you have to check your order. You have to make sure you get it right there before you leave the window. Wouldn't you say that? That's true, Jim.
So here is Don on the road says, listen, this is heartwarming. I use the drive-thru between 11 and 2, so I don't miss a second of Boston Public Radio. Is that
Isn't
beautiful?
That lovely?
Here's another one, anonymous. Breaking news, Elon Musk lays off thousands of Tesla workers whose sole job was to deliver napkins to Tesla owners. That was one of the bonuses, I thought.
John Vermont says his favorite drive-thru was in Louisiana, where you can get a giant daiquiri to go. You can drink in the street in Louisiana. Remember, we always talk about New Orleans.
No, you can drink on Bourbon Street. You can't drink on I think only on Bourbon Street. Am I right about that?
He didn't say he was on Bourbon Street. He got a takeout, a drive-thru daiquiri. Wow.
Daiquiri. I'm with Aiden on this. Aiden is suggesting it's not a daiquiri.
It's not?
No, it's a daiquiri.
It's a daiquiri?
Daiquiri. Daiquiri, Adam says.
Daiquiri?
So
Okay.
here's an anonymous texter, which is one of the reasons why Marjorie and I have an iffy relationship.
Mm-hmm.
How about a weekly replay of Jim stuck in the fun tunnel? I had to pull over laughing, the anonymous texter says.
Rhode Island has drive-through weed stores.
I don't think that can be true. Can that be true?
I don't know.
Okay, Deb in Rhode Island, we've been...
Maybe Deb knows about the drive-through weed
hello,
stores.
Deb. Hi, welcome.
Hi there.
Do you know about the
caller, long time listener?
Thank you.
Do you know about the drive-through weed stores in
I
your
don't know anything about the weed store.
Ocean State? No,
but
okay.
Neither way.
Every time I go to if I go into a Dunkin' Donuts or a Starbucks or something, and I go inside rather than the drive-through, they have one person taking care of the inside, and the line is long, and they have about 6 people taking care of the drive-through, and the drive-through is moving much faster.
There you go.
Well, I think that's true because nobody...
And I want to say about Jim being stuck in the tube, just one thing.
Please
Jim,
do, yeah.
I admire you as a parent because as a parent, if my kid were stuck in the tube, I'd say good parenting. You went in and you helped the kid.
Thank you.
Very good parenting.
Deb, thank you. And that's what one would hope Marjorie would have said under the circumstances. But instead, she's laughing uncontrollably on a plastic bench not too far away. Thank you for that. Deb, thank you for your very warm comment. I appreciate it.
You've gotten stuck in a lot of places involving seats.
Here it is. One of our coworkers said, Mother Earth Wellness is home to New England's only cannabis drive-thru in Pawtucket. It's in Pawtucket, yeah.
Wow.
Well, you said that.
Okay. Oh, you can go to CVS. They have a drive-thru there, too. Do you know that?
No.
Yeah, I guess they do.
You know what's really exciting?
What?
If you have a drive-thru, there's a drive-thru. I'm a Citizens Bank customer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a drive-thru in Arlington. I'm sure there are others too. How exciting is that? Just
Jim,
get the
there've been
cash out
drive-thru
of your...
banks
Oh, there's one in
forever.
Somerville
There've
too.
been banks forever.
No, that's to make like a
drive-thru.
deposit or something, isn't it?
Or to get the ATM.
Oh, you can do an ATM?
Yeah, they're everywhere.
They are? I didn't know that.
Okay, Daniel from Worcester, thank
By
you
the
for
way,
calling.
can I just say sometimes,
Yes.
I want to be clear about this, Daniel. We'll get to you in a second. I don't always order the double cheeseburger and the 6-piece nuggets. Sometimes I order the McChicken and the 6-piece. And I know it's all chicken.
We're all very excited about
I know
that.
it's all chicken,
Yeah.
but sometimes I'm in a chicken kind of mood, you know? What's the name of size book? Eats chicken? What's it called?
I don't know.
It's not
Don't eat the chicken.
Don't eat the chicken.
The chickens love you. Don't
Daniel
eat
in
them.
Worcester, what's up there?
How you doing, sir? I'm a first-time caller. I live in Leominster, but I'm in Worcester today.
It's okay. We love first-time callers. Thank you for doing that. Welcome.
I was just talking to an older friend today about this same situation.
No.
Because on John Fitch Highway, there's a only drive-up Dunkin' Donuts.
No.
A new one.
Meaning
Yeah,
you
on John
can't
Fitch
go in
Highway.
the store?
No, they have a window.
Oh.
So you can actually go and order at the window if
I
you want.
see.
But the thing is, my sister lives in Moncton, New Brunswick, and they have a local ordinance. You can only idle your car for 5 minutes because of the environment. So what really irritates me is all the drive-thrus of cars just sitting there burning gas for nothing.
So wait a second, you have to drive away after 5 minutes?
No. You can't idle your car in Moncton.
I see that.
Because of the cold. And it makes sense, too. People just let their cars run.
I like that.
To warm up.
Daniel, you brought great information to the show for your first call. That was excellent. Will you call us again, please?
I will, and I'm against drive-ups.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Those are fighting words there.
They are
now,
fighting words.
Maha from Boston says, this is really out of control. Wasn't there an encounter between Jim's posterior and an opera seat? Actually, that
it
is
was a
not
Fenway.
true. It was a Fenway.
seat.
It was a box seat on
They
the
had to
right
get
field
the
line
jaws
during
of
the
life.
playoffs. We had to use that. What's that spray called? HP50?
Pam
No.
spray. Oh, WD-40?
WD-40 to get me up.
Or Pam.
Oh, that's funny.
Or
Jared
Crisco.
thinks this is funny, too.
You never got stuck in a seat in Fenway, did you, Jared?
No, I did not.
And you've never been in a drive-thru in your whole life.
I have. Of course, I've been
No,
to a
you-
drive.
It was a seventh-inning stretch. Everybody's supposed to stand
God.
up. But Jim was trying to stand up.
It was a political statement. It wasn't because I couldn't get out of my...
Do you still have the divots in your thigh?
That's really very
The little
unkind.
from the screws.
The ushers were really sympathetic, though. They were very kind.
Unfortunately, I had to go home with the seat attached. They brought a couple of bolt removers.
That's one way to get
hard to drive, though. It's
an
really
artifact.
hard to drive that night. Okay. I'm only doing this because it makes Marjorie so happy. It's humiliating, actually. Okay, so that was a pre-recorded segment because we're nervous about the phones, but we were told not to be nervous anymore, that we're getting to the confidence level that we need and deserve.
I could never hear that story of you having to leave Fenway Park with a seat attached to your butt. Enough.
Well,
I mean, that is one of the great tales of all time.
Can I say, I shouldn't do this on air. I don't like when you put your stuff on my area here.
I'm sorry, Jim.
Okay. Oh, Jared's here. Now, Jared, we weren't listening to but it was about drive-thrus. Do you have a story about you and drive-thrus in your existence at all that you'd like to share with us?
So I did have at a fast food restaurant.
At the window?
Which one?
When I was in high school.
You never told us that.
Yeah, well, it has big arches. Maybe that helps you.
Oh, what'd you do?
So that's where I met all the cool kids because it wasn't in my hometown, so it was a different group of kids.
Oh.
And maybe at night other friends would pass through the drive-thru, and they would pass us things into the drive-thru.
Oh, God.
So that if you were on the closing shift, it was a little bit more enjoyable.
Sounds pretty great.
Liquor?
My parents don't know that story. Yeah.
Liquor?
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
What else would it be, Marjorie?
Well, I was going to say marijuana, but it wasn't legal to do that. You couldn't smoke at the McDonald's, could you?
No.
They didn't have any edibles then.
No.
Could have been really wild.
Okay.
Could have had some of the micro-dosing of psilocybin or something like that.
No, we didn't do that either. No bricks of cocaine. I can stop you before you ask.
Can I say just one thing to you, Marjorie?
What?
I want that.
Oh, goodness.
Very nice,
One of the great
Jim.
lines ever. That would be okay. What are you doing on the show there?
So earlier on the show, we talked about Sardines, the Huntington show starring Chris Grace. He will start off the show
Chris
today.
Grace here?
He is here.
Oh, I'm very excited to see him.
We see him right
Where
in the
is he?
audience there.
Where is he?
There he is.
Yeah.
Was that him?
He's eating.
He's about to be on the show.
Hey there, Chris. Can't wait to see the show. Thanks for coming.
We'll also
I
talk
shouldn't
about.
be thanking him for coming. It's your show.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Will be very
What else?
exciting. Phantoms by Firelight at Old Sturbridge Village. They have their own answer to Salem and all the Halloween program.
I bet that's great.
Yes, especially saying we'll talk about there was a New England vampire craze in the 1800s. We'll talk about that. And then the team behind Brassica in Jamaica Plain, they're about to have a fabulous new expansion. We'll talk about their new spices, their
I've been there a few years.
fermentation.
That is a fabulous
Great
restaurant.
food. Yeah.
Fabulous place.
Thank you, Jared.
You ever been there, Marjorie? Of
No, I
course
have
not.
I have not.
You
As
don't
you know, I
travel
never go
well out of
anywhere.
Brookline.
I'm very boring. That's
They
right.
moved to Brookline, you'll be there.
I go to Coolidge Corner. That's about it.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
See you, Jared.
Thank
we'll
you
be
for listening
right
to
here
another
live
edition
at the library thing.
of Boston Public Radio, and thank you for people that came down to the library. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow, we're going to be joined by former New York Times public editor Margaret Sullivan.
Cannot wait.
Who talks about the media not really doing what it should and covering a lot of things. She's now a columnist for The Guardian. Also, former Massachusetts Secretary of Safety, Andrea Cabral, Executive Director of the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, Colin, Killick, artist Victor Quinones on his golden pyramid of stacked ice coolers now on display in the Greenway, and author Thea Riofrancos on her new book, Extraction, The Frontiers of Green Capitalism. We want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss. Additional support from Mira Donaldson, our engineer John Nicola Parker, our executive producer Janie Bologna. Our special thanks to BPL staff, Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Sandra Lopez-Burke, our host of the Newsfeed Cafe, and across the street at the Lennox Hotel. Stay tuned to The Culture Show with Jared Bowen, which is starting immediately after us right here at the Boston Public Library. I'm Marjorie Egan.
I'm Jim Browdy.
Thanks again for tuning in.
Thank you
Hope
all.
you can tune in tomorrow, and hope you have a great afternoon.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And Johnson & Wales University, the College of Hospitality and Business, offers programs with an emphasis on career preparation. Learn more at jwu.edu.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Culture Show news desk, I'm Henry Santoro. The country is in the middle of Banned Books Week, and several events are scheduled in Massachusetts this coming Saturday. The annual event highlights the value of free and open access to information and brings together the entire book-loving community in shared support of the freedom to seek and express ideas. The theme of this year's event is Censorship is So 1984. Read for your rights. For a list of events happening in Massachusetts and beyond, both in person and online, go to bannedbooksweek.org. And fans of Dolly Parton got quite a scare yesterday when her sister Frida went on social media asking for prayers for Dolly, who was 79 years old and was recently forced to cancel her Las Vegas residency due to health issues. And then Frida posted this morning that yes, Dolly has been under the weather, and she was simply asking for prayers for her sister because she believes so strongly in the power of prayer. Turns out Dolly has kidney stones, and she's nowhere near taking that stairway to heaven. It is Rocktober 8th and celebrating his...
Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, actor and comedian Chris Grace does the math. In his one-man show, Sardines, comedy is tragedy plus time. After experiencing the death of several loved ones, he processed his grief by way of performance, using humor to explore how we cope and keep going. From there, under a cloak of darkness, we head to old Sturbridge Village, where history flickers to life at phantoms by firelight. It's an immersive Halloween experience filled with ghost stories, lanterns, and the daring spectacle of circus vampire. And Jamaica Plain's Brassica Kitchen and Cafe is on the menu. The neighborhood favorite is boosting its flavor profile and opening a new space with a fermentation room that proves time really is of the essence when it comes to enhancing taste. That's all right now on The Culture Show.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's art and culture programming.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. Chris Grace is a comedian and actor with a gift for perception and wholly original humor. He's appeared on NBC's Superstore and Broad City and earned a following for his inventive work on Dropout, a streaming platform known for experimental, character-driven comedy. What sets Grace apart is his command of tone. He deftly moves from the deliciously outrageous to quiet, stirring sincerity, always locating the emotional truth behind the laugh. In his new one-man show, Sardines, Grace brings that same honesty to his own life. He wrote the show after the near incomprehensible loss of a number of loved ones. Sardines uses humor to confront grief. Even more significantly, Grace explores the growing understanding that we already know the ending to the biggest story of all, our own lives. His show is funny, raw, and deeply human, proof that comedy can illuminate the hardest parts of being alive. Sardines is on stage at the Huntington Theater through November 16th. Chris Grace, welcome to The Culture Show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much. Can you send that letter to my agent?
Yeah. We are happy to do that. Well, I saw your show. It was mesmerizing to understand all you've been through, and then how you process it. You have the subtitle, A Comedy About Death.
Yeah.
How do you describe this?
I mean, it's really just as simple as me just telling you about stuff that happened to me and trying to be as truthful as possible about it. And I think naturally through that process, I'm just a person that tends to inject dark humor into things, and I can't ever go that long without trying to make somebody laugh. So, I mean, that's as simple as it is. It's just sort of, I mean, it really is just sort of a storytelling show about stuff that happened. And then I also have, I was a theater major, and so I have a certain amount of pretension in me, and I like to introduce, theatrical devices and stuff like that. So it's a pretty good distillation of like stuff that happened to me plus the way I like to express myself.
Well, we'll get to the humor in a moment, and I want to stress for people this: we're talking about weighty subject matter, but you make it incredibly funny. But this was how much did this unfold to you as a story as you were losing people around you? And I mean, you even addressed this in the show that you were thinking about it in the moment. That wait a minute, this is good material.
Yeah, I think that artists generally do have this sort of voice in their head that's sort of, or like monitoring what's going on, and sort of, when I was training as an actor, there's always this sense of like, if you're in a big fight with your significant other, also you should be sort of like thinking about like, how do I fight? Like, what am I like when I'm really angry? And there is this thing where your life becomes sort of grist for the mill, and that is it's a useful thing, but also it can be kind of distancing sometimes to know that your brain sort of never turns off, no matter like what. I mean, this definitely proved like it didn't matter what experience I went through, that little part of me was always going to be active.
So, tell for people, and I don't want to give too much away. This is always the peril of talking about, especially a one-man show. But the experience you went through in the scope of loss.
The scope was pretty big. I mean, basically, a lot of people in my family died after a long period where no one had died. So there was a point where I think you reach a certain point in your life that if you haven't had a lot of people die in your life, you're like, oh, our family must be one of the lucky ones where none of this is going to happen. Of course, nobody's in that kind of family, right? But you do have friends, like I have friends now who are in their 50s and 60s who still have their parents alive, and I'm like, how is this possible? Yeah. So what happened was that I sort of had that illusion about my family, and then it got shattered very quickly in like a 3-year period, basically. And so that's what happened.
Well, you pose this very poignant question, I think, which is how do we deal essentially with the knowledge that we know how it ends, whenever that awakening comes? What was the existential moment that you had that forced you to look at mortality and what death represents, what the absence of people represents, and then what it means for all of us at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think that I always wrestled with these questions. I was always thinking about existential things, even when I was a kid. But I think that I sort of was a bit of a dilettante in these topics until this stuff happened to me. So, for example, in college, I always listened to Belle and Sebastian, still one of my favorite bands, and they're very melancholy, and they're very sort of shoegazy and sad, and I sort of liked the pose of being sad about things. But then when this stuff happened to me, for the next 5 years, I didn't really listen to Belle and Sebastian anymore, because I was like, I was sort of a tourist through these areas a little bit. I sort of played at the idea of the melancholy of life, and then it doesn't matter how much you prepare yourself for these situations, it can never prepare you. Even when I'm sure a lot of people have had parents or grandparents who the end is like if they have something where you see they're in hospice or whatever, and they're still alive, but you're going to lose them. Even that, where you have an extended period of time to reconcile with them or to talk to them or be with them. Even then, when it happens, it's still shocking and hurtful. It's sort of I think Joan Didion described it as obliterative, which has always stuck to me in her book Year of Magical Thinking, in the way that it sort of just blots out a lot of your experience of it's just it's like this gigantic blank feeling that just pushes through your life, and until you experience it, you can talk about it, read stuff about it, but experiencing it is so different.
What about experiencing it in the way you have, where you have, again, this incomprehensible succession of loss in a short amount of time? Does it change how it affects you, how you deal with it, how you think about it?
My sister Patty and I essentially were reeling from it for several years, where we just kept trying to get our feet back under us, and then another thing would happen. There was a point where my sister and I were like, can we go one calendar year where something doesn't happen? And I think it was 2000, maybe 18. Or, I mean, it was funny because it was like, I think 2018 or 19, we were like, great, it's all going great. And then 2020 came around, 2020 came around, it was like, oh, and now we're in another situation. But they all have been different, and they all have been surprising and unexpected, both in their joys and their pains. You know, I think at one point, I think you would think like, okay, I have a parent that I was sort of estranged from, and then I have sort of a partner that I was very, very close to, obviously. And I think for a while it was like, well, I'm much closer to this partner than my parent, so I'm going to experience them in different ways. I might have this estranged parent, but that if they die, it will be painful, but like I'm not really close to them, so it won't be that. It won't feel as big a deal as it does when your like intimate partner dies, right? And in many ways that wasn't true. It was interesting. Basically, I had a very tenuous relationship with my father, and I sort of reconnected with him before he died. And in a way, that reconnection renewed, like made it more painful. Yeah. Because in a way, if we had just sort of stayed estranged and like I just heard about it, I don't think I would have experienced like the sort of like, oh, you are a human being and we're connecting, and then he died, right? But also, it was very interesting. Like I didn't feel that close to my dad really, but then when he died, like I did feel this sort of like, oh, I am part of this like genetic lineage from him, in a way that I think a lot of times we talk about like we have these chosen families and given families, right? But the given family still does this have a power over you. That was very surprising.
I'm speaking with Chris Grace, the actor and comedian whose one-man show Sardines is on stage at the Huntington Theater through November 16th.
Yeah, and also I'll be showing my fermentation chamber later.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, so you're working with Brassica to make a plane.
Yeah. I call my bedroom my fermentation chamber.
Well, yeah, I'm glad that you've lightened things up, because we definitely need to have people understand how funny this show is. And there are two jokes in the show that you point out that your family kind of wish hadn't been there, which made me wonder how many jokes are so maybe off color that you even took them out of the show. What was your filter for telling these stories?
The filter is one filter is doesn't make me laugh, and the other filter is doesn't make the audience laugh. In fact, in the run so far, I've tried a few new jokes that have just been based on things that have happened to me recently, and the audience has very clearly said to take them out of the show. So, I'm responsive to that.
But I guess I'm talking too about the line. You take things right up to the line.
Yeah.
Which again, we find humor in death. But are there things that you thought, okay, I can't even. That one's too dark for me.
There's this sort of moment and image at the end of No Country for Old Men when Tommy Lee Jones's character talks about having this dream about his father going around the bend of this, carrying a light around a bend where he can see the light, but he can't see his father anymore. And I do feel, I just made this sound so pretentious, but basically I feel like in a way a comedian's job is to sort of explore further along the line than the general public wants to. And the reward of this is maybe I can explore some topics that other people are interested in but don't want to sort of put themselves out there to talk about. And then the risk is that I might say something truly offensive. But I mean, that's the job, really. So I've always been, I've been an anti-authoritarian spirit my whole life. So anytime somebody tells me that I can't, like that I shouldn't talk about a certain thing, I always find myself drawn to it like a moth to a flame, basically.
What's the worst thing?
And moths get canceled all the time.
Yeah. What's the worst thing that's ever happened to you for offending somebody? What's been the worst reaction?
It's mostly, I remember many times, I can still remember like specific moments from my life, whether on stage or off, where I've made a joke that just genuinely hurt someone's feelings. And it doesn't matter how much I apologize for it, I still carry this like, it's one of those memories where like, in fact, one was where I didn't mean to make a joke about somebody's mother had just died, and I made a joke about an annoying mother, and like it just turned instantly in that moment to being like, oh, I didn't mean to, I forgot about your mother and all that stuff, and it's funny, like I wasn't like canceled for any of these things, but there is a moment where you just go, oh, I really wish I had not said that. And then also, 20 years later, I will talk to those people and they're like, oh, I don't remember that at all.
Isn't that the worst to know that you've been carrying it around all that time?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think of this moment and where comedy stands, having just come through all of this, the conversation about late night and free speech?
Yeah.
And
I'll be doing Sardines next week at the Riyadh Comedy Festival, if anybody's interested. They've given me a list of topics I can't talk about, but it should be fine.
Yeah.
I can't talk about death or grief or the royal family.
Would you go to Riyadh? See, our audience knows about this because we've talked about this.
Would I go to Riyadh? You know what's funny is I think that a lot of comedians, a lot of people have taken a position of like, I would never go to Riyadh. And I'm like, yeah, but there is a number that you would go to Riyadh. I mean, I think it's really disingenuous for me to be like, I would definitely not go, even if you offered me. I think that the thing is that when I say that, like, I'll be like, you know, if they offered me $100 million, they're never going to offer me $100 million. It's actually a much harder ethical question when they're like, they're going to offer you $120,000, and you're like, that is a lot of money. But is that enough money to like absolutely destroy your reputation for the next 10 years, you know?
Do you think for people who don't know, because we did talk about this on the show, I think it was just this last Friday, there's this Riyadh Comedy Festival sponsored by the Saudi government, which also sponsored the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, and we know lots of other human rights abuses, and a lot of comedians have accepted the gig, whether it's 6 figures or well over $1 million in the case of Dave Chappelle, likely. And then there's a whole other faction of comedians who've said absolutely not.
I would love to say
hosts who said they should absolutely not.
I would love to say absolutely not. I don't believe the comedians who say absolutely under no circumstances not. But I also think that it's in a way I would love to have these ethical problems in front of me to confront. But yeah, it's a really tough question. I think a lot of people commenting are also sort of unconsciously grateful that we weren't genuinely asked, so we don't have to. It's easier for you to take a strong moral position when you aren't the one that was asked to do it. But I do think that like more revealing is that everybody's justifications for doing it, all of them suck.
Yeah.
Like they have all made themselves look way worse in their rationales for why they did it. In the sense of like, well, yeah, you can do comedy in America. Well, what about the fascist regime in America? It's like, yeah, but we're not. I wasn't asked to do comedy at like Trump's inauguration, you know. Doing something at like the Comedy Studio is very different than doing it at like as part of a state-sponsored event in Saudi Arabia. So it's one of the. I was thinking recently about how like a lot of times when you push back on these kinds of things, it's often the defense is the problem. Like the response to it is the problem. I almost wish they would just be like, yeah, I wanted a lot of money, and I didn't care. You know, like, because I think in a way that a lot of them, that was their response. It's like, holy, this is like so much money that I don't care. I'm going to do it.
Well, you were in a bit of a similar, not remotely similar, but having to make that ethical choice that many artists feel they have to make right now in performing at the Kennedy Center.
Yes.
Because I know you were there not too long ago.
Yes.
It's the tone has changed since you were there.
Yeah.
But you opted to go on the stage.
Yeah. Well, I was paid $100 million to do that, so it was fine. Yeah, that was interesting. So I was booked before Trump got back in, and I was booked by actually it's the same people, like the people booking the theater department are the same people working so diligently under duress, you know, and trying to navigate building like good seasons for their people under this leadership. And I was actually asked a couple times, like, should I not go because does going to the Kennedy Center sort of endorse this administration? And I chose to go, and to be totally honest, like I wasn't financially in a position to like turn it down, not turn it, but to like cancel it. But also I didn't have any restrictions on my speech for that show. I didn't have any interference in terms of what the show could be. And so I did feel, how many times am I going to be able to speak this closely to the people in power on their own stage in the midst of when they're trying to sort of take it over for their own philosophy? And so, I did the show the way I wanted to, and I added some stuff about the, Trump in the show. And Actually, it was very interesting because that was my Chris Grace and Scarlett Johansson show, and that show has parts of it that are specifically rewritten for every venue, and the stuff I wrote about that venue was all just true things about the Kennedy Center, and about the history of the Kennedy Center, and it's like. Standing up for like arts and free speech and that kind of stuff. And then there was another little chunk I put in there about the creation of the Kennedy Center, and it's coinciding with work that was done on like the act excluding Chinese immigrants to the country. So I made sort of like pointed comments that were sort of talking about everything around it. And they were all facts. Like it was all. I didn't like actually express any political opinion. I was just like, you know what, this is a great institution for the arts and supporting immigration.
Did any of that come back on you?
Yeah, I have to leave the country next week.
Yeah, okay.
If that's cool.
Which is a problem, given that you're at the Huntington until November 16th.
Yeah, I'm going to zoom in for the rest of the shows. Is that cool? But I was told that somebody from the Trump administration did see the show and that they enjoyed the show. And then they afterwards were like, well, you know, I disagree with a lot of the positions. But, I mean, a lot of that partially is also that D.C. is sort of an inside baseball town where they can feel like I'll show up to come see your show. It's great. Oh yeah, I totally disagree with everything. Like to a degree, it's like their town business, and I think they're able to have a little bit of distance from the impact of some of the things they say and do on people. Whereas it's just like, yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm the Mets, you're the Yankees. We hate each other, but you know, like we're still in the same business, and so some of that is there too.
Well, we keep hearing about that. It's like the old Reagan and Tip O'Neill days. Speaking of Massachusetts guy, yeah, fight during the day, have cocktails at night.
Yeah, I mean, that happens all the time.
Well, Chris Grace, it has been so much fun to speak with you. I have a billion more questions. I didn't even get to Superstore. I was such a big fan of that show. I'll tell people, well, maybe we'll have you back before the end of your run.
Yeah, sure.
And I know that role was written for you, which I just learned. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much.
Chris Grace is an actor and comedian whose one-man show Sardines is on stage at the Huntington Theater through November 16th. To learn more, go to huntingtontheater.org. Well, coming up, Under the Cloak of Darkness, old Sturbridge Village comes alive with ghosts, an 1830s wake, and a circus of the strange. We're entering their Halloween experience, Phantoms by Firelight. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, we'll have the latest on the arrest of 13 pro-Palestinian protesters during a demonstration in downtown Boston last night. And the latest installment of What's Happening in Worcester. We'll look at the city's supermarket shortage and where local officials stand on federal immigration enforcement. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And Burton's Grill and Bar, serving weekend brunch with dishes like cast iron French toast, chicken and waffles, and short rib hash. A gluten-free menu is available, with 8 locations in Greater Boston. burtonsgrill.com. And Newport Mansions, presenting Richard Morris Hunt in a new light, an illuminating exhibition examining the architect's vision for a more gilded America. On view through November 2nd. Tickets at newportmansions.org. And Atlantic Design Center by Eldridge Lumber and Hardware, committed to helping you achieve your vision for a new kitchen or bathroom and guiding you from design to completion, with showrooms in York and Portland, Maine. Atlantic Design CTR
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. This October, as dusk falls, Old Sturbridge Village becomes an eerie stage for history of the vampire kind and spectacle. Their grand season finale, Phantoms by Firelight, weaves lantern paths, ghostly stories, and dramatic performances, including Circus Vampire, with fire dancing, acrobatics, and aerial feats. It's more than Halloween entertainment, it's a window into New England's past, where ritual, shadow, and even a New England vampire panic have shaped our modern fears. Phantoms by Firelight runs Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays from October 10th through the 26th. Joining us for an overview are Jim Donahue, President and CEO of Old Sturbridge Village, and their Director of Interpretation, Reese Simmons. Welcome to the Culture Show. It's great to have you both here.
Great. Thanks to be here. Thank you for having us.
Well, just to start out, for people who either have never been or haven't been in a while, what would they find even before dusk falls at Old Sturbridge Village?
Well, again, Jared, thank you for having us today. And one of the things I love about being at Old Sturbridge Village, especially this time of year, is we are an outdoor experience. So we have 300 acres, over 100 historic buildings, and lots of people in costume talking about the history of New England during that time. So even when folks come during the day, they'll get lots of exciting history and an opportunity to be outdoors. And then, of course, in the evening, it's Phantoms by Firelight.
We'll take us there. What's the experience that people have?
Yeah, so Phantoms by Firelight is an awesome holiday program that is meant to engage, educate, and entertain. And really, it's those three things that Old Sturbridge Village uses as its unique setting, plus the things that we do every day, like Jim was talking about, in the sense of historical interpreters engaging our audience to teach about New England's history and New England's past in a fun, immersive way. And I really feel as though the holiday and the Halloween program does that.
Well, it seems like you have incorporated the spookiness into every element of Old Sturbridge Village. Is this an answer to Salem?
I think it is, because I think it's one of these things that you could park your car, walk into the museum, and have a one-stop shop. And if you're coming for the history, we've got that. If you're coming to just have a spooky way to have your kids trick-or-treat, we have a clues and candy that they're going around to scavenger hunt to fill out their cards so they can get their bag of treats at the end. If you're coming for just pure entertainment, we have world-class entertainers through our Circus Vampire and our partnership with Clockjack Productions, where we have 4 stages and 6 different shows that are happening 3 times a night, so you're bound to hit all of them if you come to the village.
So in terms of what people could experience again during the day, for instance, walking into a blacksmith shop or any of the other trades that they would find that existed in the 1800s, how do those then shift for this Halloween celebration?
Sure. So during the day, as you pointed out, Jared, we always have our traditional artisans and craftspeople and farmers and folks working in households. And then in the evening, it flips a little bit. So those buildings may be open, but we have a cast of acrobats who come in and are doing performances. We've got musicians coming in. So they'll get a mix of the history along with some of the entertainment that comes with Halloween. And I think Reese is absolutely right. I mean, one of the things that we hear from visitors all the time is that it's a safe place to come, park your car, be able to walk around. There aren't cars coming. You don't have to worry about crossing the street with traffic. There's food, there's music, opportunities to shop. So it really is a village that comes alive for Halloween.
Well, I want to look at some of the perspectives that you give us about Halloween or something of that ilk in the 1800s. For instance, there's an 1830s wake. What's the experience that gives us?
Sure, yeah. Well, it allows us to talk a little bit about the darker sides of history, right? And the things that we don't bring up every day, like mourning practices. So up at our Freeman farmhouse, which is our kind of hub of our agricultural story at the village, we present a traditional wake to the best of our historic knowledge, right? We do warn people, before they come up, because we actually talk about death and we talk about mourning practices. We know that can hit some people really true, just like you're talking with your last guest.
Well, Chris Grace will make it all palatable and funny.
And then we're able to talk about other, like mourning jewelry, right? So we have a whole exhibit based around hair jewelry and how people used to actually, take pieces of hair as remembrance. So this is before photographs and before other ways that you're able to remember your loved ones, that you're able to take this into the past.
And turn it into necklaces or
necklaces and all sorts of jewelry. Yeah. And we have some of our collection pieces out to reinforce some of the things that we're doing on a daily demonstration.
And what about the coffin making that people can find?
Yes, our cabinet shop, which is our newest trade shop that was just opened in 2021. A big part of a cabinet maker's business was actually making coffins because almost everybody was buried in rural New England in the 1830s, and they were buried in coffins. So it did occupy a significant chunk of a lot of cabinet makers' business to make even just a simple coffin out of pine or something more elaborate made out of cherry or other specific woods.
Well, we're speaking about Phantoms by Firelight, running at Old Sturbridge Village Saturdays, Sundays, and Fridays through October 26th, starting this Friday. Jim Donahue is president and CEO of Old Sturbridge Village. Their director of interpretation is Reese Simmons. So I understand this is evolving, and I've called this a grand finale. This is the last of this show before it morphs?
It is the last of this show before it morphs. We've been doing Halloween programming now for almost as long as I've been president, which is about 18 years. And what we've learned is that people like change. And so we'll run a program for about 5 seasons, and then we'll try to change it up a little bit. So this is the 5th and final season of Phantoms by Firelight. So see it now, because it's going to disappear. And we're in the process of working on the final details of what we're going to debut in 2026, which I think will be very exciting and something new. But we've loved this program. It's been awesome. The performers are top-notch. They're first class. It's been great to have people at the village at night. We typically are a daytime program. And so this allows us to open the museum for people to enjoy it at sundown. So we love the program. It may come back someday, but this is the final season.
Well, I want to ask about this. And by the way, if you're streaming on our GBH News YouTube channel or here at the library, we'll be playing pictures, images of the show up on our monitors. But tell me about Circus Vampire and all of the very non-typical, traditional New England villagey things that people will find.
Yeah, so we have a circus troupe that essentially is coming into the village. And we have 4 main stages where we have 2 different aerialists perform. Ashley Montaigne, who's a Guinness World Record holder who appeared on America's Got Talent. She's been amongst our headliners. She has been our headliner each of the 4 seasons. We have fire performers that come from Las Vegas that are coming out to do various different fire breathing, fire dancing, and so forth. We have a gentleman that does a sear wheel and hand balancing. So if you've never seen a sear wheel, it's like a big hula hoop, big steel hula hoop that he's able to do remarkable things with it. And then it all ends with a grand finale. This year, a new thing is live music. So we're incorporating Fox and the Dragon are coming out as live performers. They're going to be accompanying a lot of the circus acts because we felt as though we wanted live performances because it really lends itself to what Old Sturbridge Village is all about, which is expertise. And these circus performers are experts, just like our cabinet makers and our blacksmiths and so forth.
Well, with fire, I hope that they're definitely experts. Yes. So let's talk about the New England vampire craze of the 1830s, I should say, or early 1800s. I didn't know anything about this. What was happening at the time?
Yeah, so the vampire phase was all about the disease, right? And there was a lot of unknowns, in the time period, and people were wrestling with the unknowns. It ended up being tuberculosis or consumption that was the root cause of it, which was a bacterial disease that was passed on. But this was these panics, around that. And in a couple of our different houses, we talk both about the traditions of these things, but also some of the remedies and some of the devices that people we're using in our time period to try to cure the ails.
So how did the manifestation of tuberculosis lead to this perception that there were vampires in our midst?
The paleness of the skin. So there was a lot of that kind of early kind of diagnosis that led to those unknown characteristics.
So a couple of other things you have a corn maze. This is a pathway that you have to find, which maybe it's easier this week with the harvest moon that we have that's super bright, but how difficult is that in the dark?
Yeah, so our corn maze is a great addition. Last year it was a labyrinth, but this year it is a traditional maze. So the definitional difference between a labyrinth and a maze, labyrinth has no dead ends. This year it will have dead ends, so it will be trickier to figure out. But yeah, so we have a Reaper's maze, so we have a statue that's about 20 feet tall that stands right in the middle of it, and your goal is to get to that Reaper. And you might encounter an actor in the midst that is kind of the Reaper's keeper. So,
Jim, have you done this?
I have, and actually, Jared, what I'll tell you is that this is entirely Reese's creation, to the point that he's out actually when the corn arrives. He goes down and creates the maze. So this is a passion for him, and I have done it. And you
didn't cheat.
Well, I did. I had a company, and he was with me when I went through it. So, but it is fun, and people love it. People love to do it.
And so, how do you characterize what a tradition this has become? And we see what happens in Salem now. We see, even in my own neighborhood, I've seen over the last number of years how I swear people are hiring set decorators. Halloween has become such a big thing. Are you feeling those effects?
Oh, no question. I mean, we've been feeling that for the past several years, that there's been a real interest in Halloween. And I think museums in general are trying to figure out, right, how do we keep audiences coming? How do we attract new audiences? How do we look at diversifying our demographics? And so for the Village, Halloween, Christmas, other seasonal programs have been opportunities for us to attract and bring and say, man, I haven't been here since I was a third grader, and I didn't even realize that you guys were still here or that you were doing these kinds of things. So what Halloween does, in addition to just being a great experience for the money and an opportunity for people to spend some quality time with some great performers and historians, it's a way for us to engage a new audience or re-engage an audience that hasn't been with us for some time.
Well, Reese, it must be a very singular job for you to tie in to what's a pretty singular mission. There aren't a lot of living history museums. I know Old Sturbridge Village is the largest in New England. Yeah. To be able to create programming that moves on from that, but also very much reflects it.
Yeah, no, it's a lens in which we're able to engage, right? And that's really what Old Sturbridge Village is about. I always wanted to be an educator, and Old Sturbridge Village has been such a blessing for me to be involved in the way that we're able to use these kind of lenses to engage an audience and try to have meaningful interactions.
Well, it sounds so much fun. Thank you for being here, and I'm so fascinated by this vampire phase that happened in New England. Who knew? Thank you so much, and good luck getting everything launched this weekend.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Jim Donahue is president and CEO of Old Sturbridge Village, and their director of interpretation is Reese Simmons. Phantoms by Firelight runs Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, October 10th through October 26th. To learn more, go to OSV, as in oldsturbridgevillage.org. Well, coming up at Brassica Kitchen and Cafe, patience isn't a virtue, it's on the menu. We'll find out how their unique approach to process enhances their cuisine and what's next as they expand into a new space. That's all next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
There were cheers when Malaysia's soccer team won a qualifying playoff game in June. But now a cheating scandal is calling all that into question. FIFA is accusing players of using fake birth certificates to get on the team. That story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Moderna. mNEXSpike COVID-19 vaccine, mRNA, by Moderna, is available. More information about mNEXSpike is available from pharmacists and medical providers. And Dover Rug and Home. Rugs and carpeting for today's lifestyle with in-home rug trial and design consultation. Dover Rug in Natick, Boston, Burlington, and online at doverrug.com. Dover Rug. Rugs and the people who know them. And Porter Square Books, hosting Lily King with Heart the Lover, a new novel of desire, friendship, and the lasting impact of first love. October 9th at 7. Info at portersquarebooks.com.
I'm Callie Crossley. All too often, a lot of very important news flies under the radar. Learn about the small stories before they become big headlines on my podcast, Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, available wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. In Jamaica Plain, Brassica Kitchen and Cafe is equal parts neighborhood hangout and creative kitchen, a place where process drives everything they make. By day, it's a cafe turning out house-roasted coffee and homemade donuts. By night, those slow techniques, miso, pickling, and koji aging, evolve into dishes like pork belly with brown buttered marshmallow and ginger chutney, fried rice with fresh and fermented vegetables, not to mention their award-winning fried chicken. Now Brassica is expanding next door, adding a wood-fired oven and dedicated fermentation room, where the team will continue exploring how time transforms taste. The doors open October 15th, marking the next chapter for one of Boston's most distinctive neighborhood restaurants. Joining me are Philip Kruda, Brassica's co-chef and expansion project manager, and Rebecca Keene, the restaurant's operations manager. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time out. I know what these days are like. You only have a few days left, a few seconds left until the opening. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. We were on our phones the whole time. Being like, oh no, this problem.
I can imagine. Well, Philip, describe for me, there has been this major evolution for the restaurant, and if you could just quickly describe what you started out as and where you find yourself today.
So, yeah, thank you. That's a great question. We actually started out as a pop-up restaurant. So, Jay and I, chefs without a real home, were finding different venues to host our dinners. As we got a following, we ended up kind of finding a residency at this cafe in Forest Hills. And we ended up buying that business from the owners and slowly turning it into our restaurant. That was about a decade ago, and it was very home built and, just adding stuff as we went along, as we needed it. And now we just took over the space next door, the old Dogwood space, and it was our first chance to really build something from scratch exactly how we wanted it. And so far, so good. We got a whole crew in there working right now as we speak, and it's a little crazy to be here, but yeah.
And at the restaurant, you have a very distinctive philosophy about how you will be a restaurant.
Yeah. So on most levels, we strive for zero waste. We're very conscious of that, not just from a financial perspective, but also creativity, culinarily wise. Basically, every product, every dish that's on our menu produces some byproduct that is used somewhere else. And so it really drives the full year, all the different seasons. And we use all different fermentation techniques and ways of preservation to get us through the year like that.
So you will have this fermentation room. Explain what that means for food and how you're basically evolving this.
So it's really just a walk-in cooler. It's basically a room where we can control the environment, so we can predict what happens over time to these things. And yeah, it's a lot of it, honestly, is just for our own discovery, our own culinary knowledge and experimentation, that informs new flavors in the future. But a lot of it ties into our menu.
Well, Rebecca, tell me about what this collaboration is. This is, you're all siblings to some degree, literally in one case, honorary sibling in another case, sitting right next to you. But how do you operate as a team to develop this restaurant?
Like Phil said, we started as a pop-up. It started with my brothers. I joined later on and sort of became the everything else. I have no culinary talent, no creative talent, all left brain. And it starts with the three of us. And we like to think we built a pretty amazing culture where people can be honest, they can be themselves. And we pass that down to the management team, who essentially are the people running the restaurant day in and day out. And they've passed that down to our staff. So we have about 22 people, and we like to think we're a family.
And this is the
It sounds corny, but
well, it sounds like the
breeds
antithesis.
a lot of loyalty.
And not what we see on the Bear is where I was headed with that, which is, I think, is the impression a lot of people are left with restaurants. But it sounds like you're very actively, and I know there is some truth to the Bear, but it's also it's fictional television. Philip, maybe you know more about this than I do, but
I've never seen it, actually, so everyone always asks me about it. But
well, it's this intense show where people are working all sorts of hours. People are eviscerating each other left and right, and
We have a downstairs cooler for that.
yeah. But you try to avoid that in a sense in having this family mentality.
Yeah, I won't say we don't get into arguments or disagreements, but we have a lot of trust between us, and without that trust, that's where the evisceration comes in.
Yeah.
So we try to keep that off the menu and off our, it's not in our handbook that's okay.
I think one way to sum up what Becca does for the business is that she really allows Jay and myself to be fully creative. Like, there's no hindrance in the creativity, and I think that's why the menu is what it is. She's on the back end making sure it all works business-wise, So, like, it was when she came on, early on, it was the missing piece to the entire thing.
Well, we'll go back to the business practices because you're doing some pretty great and unusual things there too. I'm speaking with Philip Kruta, co-chef and expansion. Rebecca Keene is operations manager. Their new expansion, their new space opens on October 15th. Let's talk about the menu and how you devise it, because like the restaurant itself, it's ever evolving.
Yeah. So the biggest difference from the previous space to the new one is the wood-fired brick oven. The previous dogwood space came with that, and we completely renovated it and got it up and running. Jay has spent the past 2 years researching like crazy and testing doughs and making sure everything is so perfect. And honestly, I wasn't even like the biggest pizza fan in general, and now I just like every time a pizza comes out of that oven, I think it's incredible.
Well, what's changed? What makes it different?
The way we ferment the dough, it's a 4-day-long process. It uses some of our sourdough. We mill whole grains in-house, and it just, everything that's fermented that goes into it makes it so much more digestible. You don't feel like you ate pizza after you eat it. Like, you can eat a whole pizza and feel fine the next day. You still go for your run,
That is
You go for a run that night if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, so it really changed my opinion about pizza when we started making it in this specific way.
And what are a couple of the, before we move to the spices that you have in front of you, what are some of the pizza highlights that will be coming our way?
So, I mean, we're very focused on the technique, so there's going to be 2 distinct styles. We're doing a Detroit-style pizza, which is done in a pan. It's like a deep dish kind of thing, and it gets like crispy cheese all around the edge. The flavors are going to be like ever evolving. It's a lot of it is based off of the menu that's happening. Kind of will turn into some pizza flavors, And then we're doing a Roman style in the brick oven, which is absolutely thin crust, very hydrated dough, just light as air, and And yeah, we have a specific cheese mix. The way we do the sauce is very particular. So
it sounds very sublime. Now, I've been hearing a lot about your spices. You have brought your spices along with your award-winning fried chicken that I was talking about in the introduction. Tell me about the spices, and we'll do some tasting, shall we, while we're on the air. We'll turn this into our own variation of hot ones. Although you're not going to take me down, are you?
Yeah, I mean, they're all fairly tolerable, I would say.
Okay.
The main thing is that it's all lacto-fermented peppers. So we use a brine that uses white wine, water, and a certain percentage of salt, and each of the peppers get fermented individually. And then usually it's Jay who comes up with like the flavors that keep rotating, and those are made from individual peppers. You can see them on the labels there. But we always have a house hot sauce that is basically a mix of everything that's being fermented in-house at that time.
So who has the joy of doing all the tasting? Is everybody tasting as you're developing these?
Yeah, I think everyone loves it, no?
Yeah. My favorite's the house.
The house. so is it, you're telling me to do it right now?
We've even converted
So I would
some
recommend
people.
going in this order.
Okay,
in
well,
terms
we'll
of
see. We have about 7 minutes
hot
left.
to hot.
All right. So tell me about your open. While I'm doing this, tell me about your open books. Then when I was referencing your unconventional business practices earlier, this isn't something practically any business does, I think.
Some do. I think we're probably at the forefront, at least in our neighborhood. When the pandemic hit, we had to pivot like many other businesses. And I like to think we did a pretty good job with staff retainage. One of the ways that we were able to keep our staff and make sure they could make living wages is we put in what we call an admin fee. It's 20%. It serves in lieu of gratuity. We never say no if people want to tip on top, because that's a little extra we can keep in our pockets. Yep. But what's nice about it is that it allows us to legally share with the kitchen team, which we call the back of the house, who in Massachusetts are not allowed to take tips. 2 states in the entire country, Massachusetts and New York, you are not allowed to tip out your back of the house. So I researched the law, I made sure it was legal, and put into place this administrative fee. And all the proceeds go right to the staff. And what it's done is it's allowed our back of the house to make true living wages, our front of the house to share in, again, the spirit of teamwork. And it's fostered an environment where people really want to work together, from the production of the food to the serving of the food to guest satisfaction. It's not just that they know they're going to be tipped well and they won't have that person who's going to tip them 10%. It's because they take pride in it and really like what we do. So when the pandemic hit, we put it in place, figuring, to be totally transparent, that the neighborhood and our guests would be most forgiving. Restaurants were really struggling.
Yeah.
So with putting that in place and then continuing it, we have had great responses from our clientele.
Well, it must be a relief too, because I think there is so much conversation about tipping, because now it's
now.
everywhere. It's from retail to restaurants, where people were usually only accustomed, I'm leaving hairdressers, that kind of thing aside, to restaurants. And I think that the scales have been tipped on this, and people feel there's too much onus on them. So I would imagine it's something of a relief.
It is kind of a relief. And there's a lot going on right now behind the scenes with, with Trump's bill and how that affects front of house wages. There is no guidance that goes with it to see how that's going to affect not just front of the house, but back of the house in a situation like ours. And to me, it's nice to just say to the guests, you know what, the price you see is the price you're going to pay. And you don't have to do anything.
You know that everybody's dealing with it. All right, I'm going to do a quick taste here, because I'm going to skip ahead to the house one after. All right, so this is, I can't read this. What is the, I didn't put my glasses on.
Gochujang and blackberry. So gochujang is it's one of the ferments we actually don't make in-house. It's made by our friend Mary, Remade. and it's her fermented gochujang that we process in-house with fresh blackberries.
Delicious. The chicken is amazing. Great pairing. Right. I'll skip ahead to the house, and while I'm doing that, Philip, I'm going to ask you about. We spent a lot of time on this show talking about art. You're a Mass Art alum. Come from an art family, I understand.
Oh yeah.
Spent a lot of time traveling the country. How does this all come to the fore? Everything that you have absorbed in art in the restaurant.
Well, I was kind of joking all along that like this is my life's work, because it like literally has used every single skill I have ever picked up. And there were times, like in the beginning, I thought I was just going to be doing a little bit of carpentry and making sure the design worked out in our favor. And because of different complications with contractors and stuff, we ended up having to manage the entire project. And
Phil managed the entire project.
And doing a lot of it yourself?
And doing a lot of it myself. All the finish work I did myself. So everything you see that's there, besides like the countertops, was installed by me, and it's been over a year of every single day.
And including some really extraordinary wood, I understand that you were able to secure. I mean, we all love to be able to have reclaimed wood, especially in New England, where it's in abundance in older properties, but you had some major scores in that regard.
I ended up using materials that I have saved for over a decade, that I've moved from shop to shop, and I even reclaimed a lot of stuff from the dogwood space.
Which is the restaurant next door that you've moved into.
The restaurant, yeah. So during the demolition, I was carefully removing all the nice pieces and denailing them and reprocessing them into something. And at a certain point, like Jay realized that I was doing all this, and he's like, wow, we're even building this restaurant out with like a zero waste mentality, you know? So.
Which people can appreciate. All right, we have about 30 seconds left. Tell me about the house sauce that I'm about to eat, and hopefully it's not too hot for me to be able to do the end of the show.
So this is just all the peppers that we ferment.
All the peppers, he says,
together.
Put it
it's always different. We try to keep it kind of mild. We add a lot of maple syrup to kind of balance it out.
It's sweet,
you know?
yeah.
And acid, of course, to balance it out. This one, if you have a second to try, is my favorite. This is Hungarian wax peppers and all of the apple cores. We save all the cores from the apples and compress them and puree them and add them to this sauce. So
of course you do. I'm going to do the outro here, and then I will taste it as I'm doing this to be sure that I end the show on time. And we should mention all the sauces we've talked about are also for sale. Thank you both for being here. Love your philosophy about food, zero waste, everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Philip Kruta is co-chef and project manager of Brassica's expansion. Rebecca Keene is operations manager. Their new space opens on October 15th. To learn more, go to brassicakitchen.com. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Culture Show. Tune in tomorrow for Jake Tapper on his new book, a real-life thriller titled Race Against Terror, chasing an Al-Qaeda killer at the dawn of the Forever War. Special thanks today to Henry Santoro, the curator of our Wednesday Culture Cast. Today's engineer is Bill Piazzatelli. The BPL technical and logistics crew is Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Sandra Lopez-Burke, Juan Jose Cadena, Chris Hanks, Pat Lally, and Olivia Corcio. Thank you to the Newsfeed Cafe. To everyone who came down here today, we love seeing you. I'm Jared Bowen. Have a great day.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Spend your afternoon with us. Stay with us for GBH's All Things Considered at 4 and Marketplace at 6:30.